watching Thread Life with Belle. Her live show is starting soon. Quilting, teaching, sewing, making lovely things. Come on and join us. It's almost time for Thread Life with Belle. Yeah, I said the live show is starting soon, so keep your YouTubes tuned to Thread Life with Belle, with Belle, with Belle. On YouTube starting very soon, so stay tuned, Belle is getting ready for you. Quilting, teaching, sewing, making lovely things. Come on and join us. It's almost time for Thread Life with Belle. Yeah, I said the live show is starting soon, so keep your YouTubes tuned to Thread Life with Belle. Thread Life, Thread Life, Thread Life, Thread Life, Thread Life, Thread Life with Belle, starting soon.
Hey y'all, welcome to Stitchin Saturday. It's Thread Life with Belle here in my Seam Sew Me studio on a rainy Saturday afternoon in Arkansas in the Ouachita National Forest. Hello, Susan from sunny Washington. So I actually used to live in Bremerton. Did you know that? I lived on Whidbey Island for, was it 4 years? From about age 20 to 24. Yeah. Artisan Quilting, hello from Colorado. Oh, I'm trying to remember. So is it Valerie? Is it Valerie? I can't remember. And then Susan, and you guys both have the little blue star icons next to your name. So thank you for being Threadmaster or Thread Sprout members of Thread Life with Belle. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your support. Hello, Josh from North Carolina. Happy Saturday. Yep, Valerie, I got it. Oh, good. I'm glad I got your name right. Josh, haven't seen you in a while. I'm glad you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a rainy day here, but the rain stopped for a bit. So we'll see what happens with the storms. I should be able to keep, you know, internet and electricity and all of that. So it's Stitchin Saturday, y'all, and Stitchin Saturday is grabbing your works in progress, your UFOs, and we all work on those things together. So it's technically not a teaching day, but indirectly there's things that I kind of share with you about my process or things that I'm working on that really kind of do teach in a way or share some tips and tricks with you. So today I am going to be taking my Riverglen pattern, which is a cathedral window pattern of mine, and I'm going to turn that large block into an envelope pillow, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Hello, Eugenia. So Eugenia also is a Thread Master member on Thread Life with Belle. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. I just got to see Eugenia on Tuesday. I taught this block that I'm going to show you in a moment, my Riverglen block, cathedral window block. I usually don't finish one when I'm teaching because I'm kind of helping people. Well, this one I finished, and I did it in colors that will work with our bedroom. So this is going to be a pillow for my bedroom. So I'm going to work on that today. So I'll show you how to take basically a block, and I say a block any size, and I'll show you how to make the envelope backing so you can turn one into a pillow. And you can do any size. Now I'm going to be working with the measurements for my block today, but I'll kind of explain to you how to do that. And then this one also has binding on it. So I'll show that to you in a little bit. I don't know about you guys. Do you ever have weeks where everything happens at once and it's like really stressful? That was my week this last week. It was just one thing after another. I was super tired and exhausted. And so I did not do a Thread Life with Belle yesterday. I actually had to take care of some things that came up, and then last night I planted some flowers and I pulled my back out, so I'm a little bit sore today. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a pillow for myself. That's what I'm gonna work on today. The other thing I have, if we get that pillow done, I'm gonna be working on is I don't know if I showed y'all, but this is my Friendship Blooms pattern, and I'm working on a baby quilt for a friend. So Friendship Blooms, it's linked in the description box below, and each one of these blocks are a little different. This is the scrappy version. I have a friend that's having a baby in July, and these were all my demo blocks. When I went to H&H Americas, I was demoing the pattern. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna actually make the blocks and use fabrics that I need for her baby quilt. So if I get the pillow done with you guys today, I'm gonna sew the sashing on to these to get this little baby quilt all done. So I'll set those to the side for now. And so let me show you what I've got. So this is what I taught on Tuesday to the Belle Point Quilt Guilds in Fort Smith. And we had a tornado. Oh, that was the other part of the way. That's what started the week. We had a tornado fly over where I was. Then the Airbnb that I was staying at flooded. Literally, water came through the walls on the floors and was flooding. Now, fortunately, it was like kind of modernized cement. And the owner came over and we had towels and we're mopping up. And so I didn't get to sleep really. It was like 1 in the morning, and then the tornado, like the alarms were going off at like 3:30. So that's how the week started. But we all survived. We woke up Tuesday morning and it was sunny and lovely out. So I was still able to teach this class. So I love the Cathedral Window Block. It is my absolute favorite block. And it looks kind of, I've got batting behind it. So I've already drawn my quilting lines. I have to make a decision on which stitch I want to use. Do I want to use the straight stitch, or with my new Juki, I've got some decorative stitches and I'm kind of thinking about testing some of those out and maybe trying that. So this is what I'm going to quilt first. I'm going to show you how I do that. And then I've got the fabric cut to make the envelope backing and the binding. So I'm actually going to go with this kind of this peachy color in the peekaboo part. I'm actually going to use that for the backing and the binding. It's all going to be the same, and then this will be on our bed. So that is what I'm going to be working on today. And that is, those two patterns are my Riverglen and my Cathedral Window pattern. They're linked below. Hello, Lisa. I'm so glad you love Stitchin Saturday. You know, I was like, Stitchin Saturday can be fun where we all kind of work on our stuff. I know I've done that before on YouTube, where I'll just have my TV on and I'll be working on stuff and then just listening to someone, you know, on YouTube, not necessarily following a tutorial, but it's like we're hanging out together in my studio, or I'm in yours or you're in mine. I can't really see yours, so I guess you're really just hanging out with me in mine, but we're just kind of working together and talking along the way. Hello, Camilla from South Africa. Well, you came a long way to be here on Thread Life with Belle today. What time is it in South Africa? So it is a little after 3 o'clock in the afternoon Central Standard Time here in Arkansas. So yeah, I'm glad you're with us. And anybody else want to introduce yourself, please feel free to drop your name and say hello and tell me where you're from in the chat today. We'll move that over there and see what we've got going on. All right. Quilt Husband is actually dropping some links in for you guys today. We've got several Threadmaster members. Thank you so much. That supports my channel that I'm getting going here on YouTube, and to share a lot of this content with you. So I very much appreciate that. Those of you that are Threadmaster members actually will have access to special videos that no one else sees. So for example, I have a new fabric collection that will be coming out in October, and those fabrics will actually be in for me to sample and use this summer. So some of those things, as time goes on, there's secret things behind the scenes that other people won't see, but you will get to see those first. So that's one of the things. And there's little badges next to your name. So when you see the little stars and the little badges, that tells you you're a thread, either a Thread Sprout or a Threadmaster member. And then you've got emojis you can use and all that stuff. So thank you for your support of Thread Life with Belle. All right, if you would and you haven't, please subscribe and give this video a like. It helps kind of get the video out there to other people. Feel free to also share it too. That's really helpful. I usually do lives on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, a combination of one or all three of those days, depending on my schedule, if I'm training, if I'm out of town, if I'm traveling. Next weekend, I will be gone all weekend, and I'll also be gone on Wednesday. So my next Thread Life with Belle will be on Monday. Now, I know it's a national holiday, so a lot of people will be home. I will be doing that in the afternoon. It'll probably be around 3 o'clock again. So if you want to hang out on your day off, which is kind of like a Saturday, I will be doing that on Monday, but then I will be gone for the rest of the week. So we'll pick back up probably the following Monday. And I try to post for you all like a link and a thumbnail so that you can hit the notification button and it'll remind you of when I'm getting ready to go live. Hello, Malin. Is it Malin? Is that how you say your name? Malin, you are in Sweden and you're working on a wonky star and it's 10 p.m. where you are. Okay, and Camilla, it's 10 p.m. for you in South Africa. Well, thank you guys for joining me all the way from across the country. I would love to visit South Africa. I've seen beautiful pictures of the area there. So welcome, I'm glad you're here. Anybody else want to introduce yourself? Please feel free. This is a very loving and kind and supportive community here on Thread Life with Belle. This is now my next week. Let's see, is it next week? I think next week will be my second month. So I'll have gone all through April and then all through May after next week and have been on here for 2 months of doing lives. Now I have had this channel for like a little over 3 years, but normally they're recorded videos. And so the lives is kind of a new thing I've been doing, and many of you have been with me from day one, working out a few of the kinks, all the video angles and all that good stuff. Marlin. Like, there's no R. But she says like Marlin. Like Marlin. So is the R silent? Is the R silent in your name? Okay, I'll try to remember that. All right, so here we go. Let me kind of show you what I've got. So first off, I want to share it's not an unboxing, but I want to share with you something super cool that I got while I was with the Belle Point Quilters at their guild on Tuesday teaching. So it was an all-day cathedral window class. It is my most popular, favorite class to teach. And I was there with a wonderful group of quilters. They were so much fun. And one of them, her husband makes clappers, the wooden clappers, okay? I have a long oval one that I use for my seams to press them open, or even to the sides. I use those. Well, one of the quilters there, she had a great big one. It is like a massive square one she was using, and she was packing up and leaving, and she showed it to me that her husband makes these just for the guild members. And I just fell in love with it. I'm like, oh my goodness, I would love to buy one. Well, he doesn't really sell them like online or anything. Y'all, look what she sold me for $25. Isn't this beautiful? I'm gonna put the overhead view on so you can see it. Look at this custom woodwork here, this nice little strap. Now, I have a friend, Chris from Modern American Vintage, and he does a lot of clappers similar to this, but he will do intricate quilt blocks with wood engraved in here. So his are, a lot more pricey. But she sold hers to me. So this is hers. And I believe she said this was oak, I think, on the bottom. Eugenia, you may have to correct me. Eugenia's in here and she's in the same guild as the lady that sold this to me. And I know, Susan, isn't this gorgeous? So apparently this holds the heat really well. Yeah, so this was hers. And she just gave it, she's like, here, I'll sell it to you for 25 bucks. So I'm super excited. This actually will press, let me tell you what size this is. This is a 9x9. So this will press 9-inch blocks on my pressing station so I can iron and then just put this on top, and all of the seams will be pressed open at once underneath this rather than like one at a time. So, oh my goodness, this right here, I was super, super excited about. And I told her, I was like, if your husband sells these, I'll post the link, but she said he doesn't. So the closest I can get for you guys, I'll have Quilt Husband drop it in there for you, since Her husband doesn't sell these. I do have a friend that sells these, but like I said, they are more expensive because they have quilt blocks in them, and it's modern American vintage. And so he'll have to look that one up. And in modern American vintage, he has like a tab you can pull down that says quilting and has all kinds of wooden notions. So I'll share that with you, since Susan and the Guild, her husband actually doesn't have a shop to sell these. So I know, because people will be like, I want to get one. Well, you got to be, I guess, special. You either have to belong to the guilds, or you have to be me and be teaching and get that kind of a deal. So let me move this over just a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right. The Farmhouse Quiltery. So she has a large and a small one just like this at your booth in the Minnesota Quilt Show. Okay, so Farmhouse Quiltery, what is your first name? I'm really trying to remember. This is going to get hard the more and more people that join to remember people's first names. But it sounds like she does. So do you make these, or does your husband make these? Yeah, you can often find something similar, different sizes. Some don't really have any intricate woodwork. Some are just the wood themselves. Let me go show y'all at my pressing station. This one was a custom one. When I very first started quilting, I had made, and it's got the grooves for your fingers. And she actually burned, she used a, I forget what it's called. It's like a wood burner. And she burned these are my little custom quilting pins that I used to make and sell in my Etsy shop, which I don't do anymore. And this was my old logo. So it said Seam Sew Me with my little flowers on there. So I normally will use this to press, my seams open. And I've been wanting one of the great big ones that I just showed you that Susan sold me really cheap. But like I said, my friend Chris, I would really kind of need to save up to get that one because it can be a bit more pricey. But I wanted to share this with you. Okay, so Susan's name, Susan. I'm going to try to remember Susan from Farmhouse Quiltery. Welcome. Local retired gentleman makes them for you guys. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of woodworkers, carpenters. My dad actually was a carpenter before he worked in management. And he builds a lot of things too. And I think I may have to be like, Dad, I think you might need to use some of that wood you've got and make some of these and sell them at the retreat center. I know a lot of people do that. So I don't know. I just am like, these are amazing. And so many people out there are very talented with wood. So absolutely. If y'all are in Minnesota, it sounds like Farmhouse Quiltery at their quilt show, they have them. Modern American Vintage. Maybe Susan's husband from the Belle Point Quilt Guild will end up selling them eventually. Susan, it is a 9x9. It's a 9x9. I would say I would love to have one that is. Most of my blocks are large that I make. So this block here is a 20-inch block. Now I can't imagine having one that large, but I don't know. I might like one that was a little bit larger, like maybe a 12-inch block possibly. These individual units here, if I can remember, I think there's 7.5 within each of these because there's 4 units here. So this 9-inch would easily cover those sections. And then of course this has the borders around it here. So yeah, because see, you guys can't see this. I'll pull it back for you because I've already used glue-based. These are super thick seams. Let me zoom in for you so you can see. So these with cathedral windows, the method that I use, which is a method in which you can use backing and batting. And the traditional cathedral window, you don't use batting. It's the envelope method, and the back is folded to the front and then folded over and hand stitched. Well, this actually is the easy modern method I teach, and we use glue. We actually use some glue, which is not something that most people use. It's kind of a special way I teach it. But these seams are really thick. So each side of this has 4 layers here of fabric on each side. So you have to press them open rather than to the side, because if you press to the side, you've got 8 layers. But if you press them open, there's only 4 on each side. And it's really helpful when it, comes time to sewing all this together. But anyway, this is going to be super handy, especially when I make cathedral window blocks. So yeah, I'm super excited. This actually made my week. This was the highlight of my week, honestly, because I had a really, really rough week this week. And Quilt husband can attest to that. And right now my back is out, one of my hips from planting flowers. So yeah, I had to get on antibiotics. It's just been a little rough today. So I'm glad that you're with me here. All right, so let me show you what I am gonna do. I'm gonna put this up over here on my pressing station and get that out of the way. Now, what I have done here, let's see, I don't know if you can see my lines on here because the light is pretty bright. I've actually used a ruler. I'll show you how I mark it. Hey, y'all like my clip? I'm leaning over on purpose. So these are these are 4-patch. It's like a 4-patch here. Turn it sideways, look at that. These are quilty clips. Aren't they fun? I have a friend that does all the, well, she's not a friend, she's somebody that I know, and I've become friends with her online, and she has all these quilty hair clips, so I've been wearing all those, so I just had to show you that too. All right, on this particular block, when I teach this class, there's always a pillow that I end up with, that there's always a block that I end up turning into a pillow or a tote bag, one or the other. This one is going to be a pillow. Now, when I teach this class, I teach it where the frames on the outside are actually not folded out to make a complete like circle. We actually leave them normally folded in. So let me show you here on the pattern. On the pattern, we'll open it up to here. So if you look here, it's got a little bit of a glare. Can you see they're squares? The outside edges are squares rather than completely open. But I give people the option in the class to open them up after they've sewn their borders on if they want. And I was like, you know, I usually leave mine where there's the square sides, and this time I'm gonna open them all up so it truly looks traditional. And this is gonna go on our bed, so we're gonna put it there. Oh, Susan, you're welcome. Yeah, I just pulled the muscle. I mean, I was planting. I only had a couple of hours to get it done before dark last night, before all this rain came. So I was like, I got to get this done. So I'm rubbing this cream on my back, and anyway, it was a slow morning for me this morning, and then it was raining, but I'm happy to be with you guys. This is really fun to do. So I'm hanging in there. All right, so I want to show you how I marked these things. Let me see if you guys can see. Okay, I think you can see the blue. You can see the blue lines. Let me know if you can see my blue lines that I've marked. This is how I mark mine. So what I'm going to be doing today is quilting this. So I've already got my batting behind here, and I've used basting spray. I'm not a pinner as far as basting with pins. I don't like it. So that's not me, but if that's you, that's perfectly fine. I just really like it. I don't ever have people ask, do you have problems with your needle getting gunked up? No, I do not. Never have any trouble with that, never have. So I do like to use glue based, and here's what I use. I actually, if y'all know me, you know I use Roxanne glue based for cathedral windows and my binding. Well, Colonial Needle, they are the brains behind the Roxanne glue base. They also have Roxanne basting spray. And so this is what I use also. I don't think I put this in the description box. I'll put it in there for you when the live's over if you want to go back and you want to try theirs. I've used Olfa before, but unfortunately, I switched because those are kind of expensive to buy, the large cans, and I've had a total of 6 of these little nozzles here that wouldn't work. So literally the spray, it was wasted basting spray. So I was like, I'm gonna make a switch. So anyway, this is Colonial Needle. They make Roxanne temporary based, and that's what temporary adhesive spray they call it, but I use the spray base. So that is the brand I use. Okay, so here's what I do. I often will do kind of, let's see, that's kind of blurry. There we go. I often will use triangles. So what happens is I will get my square ruler like this. This is a 8.5 by 8.5. And what I did was I measured down from the corner right here where my folds fold over. I measured down with this ruler approximately 1 1/4 inches down. And I put a little dot there. And then I use the water-soluble Clover erasable marker. I have these on my website. I'll have Quilt Husband drop the link in there. Let me tell you a story. And Susan in Fort Smith and their guild did not get this story, I don't think, because we had to reschedule the trunk show. The tornado came through, so we had to cancel that, and I'll have to come back later. And normally I tell this story when I show one of my quilts because all of the lines are still left on there when I used a friction pen. Back when I first started quilting, several people said, oh, friction pen's a way to go. I did on cream fabric like this. And what happened was after I washed it, all of the lines came back and it ruined the quilt. I mean, the lines are still there. You get to see them, so I tell that story. So I forever have switched to the Clover water erasable thick marker. I have never, ever, ever had any marks left on afterwards. All you do is spritz it with water. You spritz it with water. Now, I do know that I have a friend, Cindy. She teaches, I forget her last name, she teaches at AQS a lot of free motion quilting on your domestic machine, and she uses this as well. And I've been in her class and she's talked about this also, that how well it works, especially if you're gonna do quilting and custom quilting you might do for show quilts and you don't want anything to show. She uses this also. You just soak your quilt in water or spritz it with water and it disappears, but you don't want to add heat to it. So for example, after I quilt all of these lines, I'm not gonna get an iron and press it on there just to be safe. So that's what I use, and I swear by these. So I do carry them in my shop because I talk about them all the time and then people ask about them, and they last for quite a while as long as you keep the top on there. All right, so what I do is I line my ruler up here, and then I get my marker here and just draw my lines there like that. And then for this one, I actually came down 2 inches. So I measured 2 inches from here to here. And then I did the same thing. I drew a line from here all the way around. So I have 2 triangles here on both sides. Let me zoom out a little bit because it looks a little bit blurry. And I did that on all 4 corners. So here, I did it on this one, or all 4 sides. And then for the sides, I actually chose to do straight lines. So there's a straight line here and another blue line there. It's kind of hard to see because it's blue, but you'll see them a lot better when I get this under the machine and I actually start quilting it. So I've got some decisions to make. And what I'm gonna do, I've got some cream color fabric. First off, with my new Juki, it's a DX4000 that Sewing Machines Plus sent me. And full disclaimer, I did not buy it. I do some work for them. He sent that to me, and there's decorative stitches, and I have not used, I don't think, maybe one. So I'm gonna show you the decorative stitches. I'm gonna stitch them out on a piece of this cream fabric and let you help me decide which one you think I should use, rather than just use a straight stitch, which oftentimes I just use a straight stitch. I thought, you know what? I'm gonna change it up a little bit. So I'm gonna use some Aurifil thread. It is this really pretty, I don't think it's marked the name of it. It's $23.90, and it's this really pretty rust color that matches the rust color in this print here. This is Blushed Houndstooth. This whole collection is Blushed Houndstooth from Benartex, if you're wondering about it. And I'm gonna use, so that there is a contrast, sometimes when I use my Baby Lock Sashiko, I'll use that machine and you really can see the stitches really well, and it looks like you've hand stitched it. But today I'm like, you know what? I think I want to use the new sewing machine. And if you're curious about it, you see me sewing with it all the time. It's silver. Quilt Husband dropped the link in there for you so you can read about it. It's got a dual feed on there. It's got like a computer on it, all this stuff, and I'm still learning all the bells and whistles to it. Okay, so this is the thread I'm going to use, but I'm going to first stitch some of these designs out, and I'll let you guys kind of see what you think of some of them and which one I'm going to use. So we'll get that ready over there. So I'm going to take this over and try those out. Now, really quickly, this is the pattern, if you're wondering, it's the pillow. So this pattern of mine, Riverglen, has 4 different patterns in it. There's a table runner, and the table runner consists basically of this top row, and the center is where you put your centerpiece or your teapot or your flower arrangement, whatever it is. And a lot of people get the pattern for the pillow, and it also teaches you the method. There's video tutorials in here that teach you the method on how to do it. So that is that. And then if the batteries last long enough for all the cameras and everything today, I'm gonna work on sewing together that baby size of my friendship blooms, and it will look like, let's see here, this right here. This is the scrappy version, and I'm gonna get the sashing and that cornerstone sewn in there today. So that is the plan for Stitchin Saturday. You guys ready? Tell me in the chat, what are y'all working on today? I think one of you mentioned, I don't remember who it was. Let me scroll back up here in the chat. One of y'all were working on stars. So, who was it? Wonky stars. Marlin from Sweden. What else is anybody else working on today? Let me know. All right, I'm gonna head on over to the sewing machine with this, and let's decide what decorative stitch that I want to use. And we'll stitch that out, and then we're gonna do the back to make the envelope. And I've gone ahead and cut that out, so I've got my 2 pieces cut out here. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a bit, but one piece is larger than the other one. Let's see. Just had a commercial interruption with the live. Yeah, so that happens, unfortunately, on the lives, is that I think the commercials, YouTube will add the commercials in there. So that will happen from time to time, I think. There might be 1 or 2 that happen during the live, the commercials.
We need to explore if we can get Threadmaster's commercial free.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if maybe we can explore that with, if maybe that doesn't exist for Threadmasters. I don't know. We'll have to explore that. We'll look into that. Thanks for letting us know. But that is part of the monetizing, to be able to so I just reached monetization level last week with this. So we'll check into that a little bit. Welcome, Rita. Let's see, Crystal Drag. Oh, Crystal is Rita. Okay. Oh, I'm glad you're here and you caught me live today. Good deal. Well, it's kind of hit or miss sometimes. And Valerie, you're working on a Ruby Sensation kit from Missouri Star. I don't know what that is. I may have to look into that. Hey, Charlotte from Hartzell Homestead. Charlotte is one of my favorite. I say it's a local quilt shop. It's an hour and a half from me, but they are like family. They're just the best. And Lisa is long arming some baby quilts. All right. Yeah, okay, Crystal, monetization requires keeping the commercials. Yeah, so it looks like the commercials will pop up from time to time, y'all. All right, Susan is catching up on 4 blocks of the month. Well, y'all know right before I went live, I just finished recording the tutorial for a 9 patch, because I don't know if any of you all are in this, but I'm doing a year-long quilt-along. It is a beginner quilt sampler, and it's 12 blocks. So by the end of the year, there will be 12 blocks for new quilters to learn how to make simple quilt blocks. And it's closed now. I opened it up back in December, and I think there's over 600 people that are participating in it. And then at the end of the year, we'll have prizes and all of that fun stuff, and then we'll all have a finished quilt, right? Well, I'm actually doing 2. I'm doing one in scrappy, I'm using cottonier fabrics, actually. I'd started using it before I became a fabric designer with Benartec, so that one will be my own personal one that I use, but I wanted to work with linen, so it's actually linen that I was giving a try. So anyway, I recorded that today. right before we went live, and that happens every first of the month. You actually can see those tutorials. Those are open to the public, but they do go along with that pattern to be able to get the pattern for it. Susan, thank you on monetization. I know, that was wild. Well, it's a huge thanks to you all for supporting me for 2 months. I think we thought it was gonna take like 6 months to do that. So in full realization right now, I've earned $40. $40. But it'll take a while, but anyway, that's full transparency kind of how that stuff works. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. That way I get kind of paid by YouTube for my time. All right, y'all. Well, I'm gonna head on over to the sewing machine and let's pick out a decorative stitch on what we want to use for this pillow. So let me switch on over to the machine. I'm gonna take this over here with me. And I've got to put the new thread in, y'all. Forgot to do that, so we'll take out the cream color thread. And I want to show y'all this machine. It came with, this plate changes for one. This plate completely changes. And it can be I always call it the jelly bean plate because it's got the open hole for the needle to go down in. So I'm gonna have to change this. So you guys are gonna get to see how this works. Apparently this machine, this Juki, is the only one that has everything I'm getting ready to show you. So I'm gonna take off my patchwork presser foot that I had on. And let me try to get my hand out of the way because sometimes this hand over here blocks the view, I've learned. So we're gonna take that off. And it has a special feed dog for this plate. Okay, so I'm gonna be switching and putting on, I call it the jelly bean plate. This is for the decorative stitches or zigzag stitches. And this machine intuitively will not let me do decorative or zigzag stitches if my straight stitch plate is still on, so you don't accidentally break a needle. Right? Isn't that nice? So it has its own special feed dogs, these that go with it. And then this one has its own special feed dogs. So that's really kind of a neat feature of this machine. So I'm going to show you how this works with changing this. And this is the little box that comes with it. So this is the bobbin I'm going to use. I've already got thread on there, but it's got all these feet. It's got an electric plug-in for the buttonhole maker, which I've not used yet. I really, really want to learn to sew garments. I've got a couple patterns I'll have to show y'all in a little bit. What I'm going to attempt to make in my fabric collection by October. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so we'll put that up and let me see here. I'm going to use, let's see here. I'm going to use this foot here that's open so I'm able to see the decorative stitches. So we'll get that out. So you take this little key here, right here, and hey Trish, I'm glad you made it. Welcome. So y'all, Trish is Quilt Winch, and I remember her telling me that was a loving term that her mother used to call her when she was little. So it wasn't a mean thing, but I do remember to call her Trish rather than to just keep saying the YouTube handle name. Okay, so this pops off like this. Look at that, just pops right off. Isn't that cool? And then I can put it back over in the box. And then you use your thumb, and I always make sure my needle is up so I don't accidentally poke myself. Technically, you should probably take your needle out, but I don't. So take that off. And then this is where I take the time to go ahead and clean out my machine when I'm making this change here. So we're gonna take out the old bobbin. And I use this little brush, I got this I think on Amazon, and just go through and clean out in there. Maintenance is important, y'all, for stuff to last longer. My dad always tried to instill that in me to keep stuff from breaking, so I try to remember to do all the things. Okay, so got that cleaned out. And now, I always have to remember, so put these up And we're gonna put on, these are the new feed dogs that go with this new plate. And it just sticks right there. And you just press down and it's in place. And then you just take the plate here, put it there, and you have to press down kind of hard. It's gonna click like that, and it's in place. And then you just put the key up and you're done. Now I'm gonna put the foot on. So I've got it open so I can see the decorative stitches really well. And I use a knee lift, y'all. So you'll see me being able to use both my hands. So then let's put in the bobbin. And it always reminds me, you would think I would remember every time, and I don't, the direction that it goes. So it goes like this. So it makes a P down and around. And this is actually a thread cutter. You just go like, boop, and it cuts your thread for you when you pull that. And then you just put the cap back on, and we're ready to rock and roll. Well, at least with the bobbin. So let's also put on, we're gonna put on, this color is the thread that I'm gonna use. And you guys can't see the view, unfortunately. We just don't have more than 5 camera views, which I think 5's pretty good to show you how I thread this. When I do a tutorial on this machine in the future, I'll have a tutorial on that. So this does have a threader. So you put it up through the number 7 slot there, and there's a thread cutter on the side to cut that off. And you push the lever down, and it threads it. And then I just pull that through. I just have to like get it loose. Ooh, what did I do? Let's try that again. I am using Aurifil 50 weight, and sometimes I use thicker thread, but I'm using this because I like the color and it really goes well. Good grief, I cut it again, y'all. I accidentally cut the thread again. I'm using the Aurifil because I like this rust color and it really matches my fabric really well. All right. There we go. Okay, now we're threaded. All right, so it has a little button where I have to accept. I have to accept the new foot that's on there. And then I'm going to look at all the different decorative stitches. Now y'all can't see it on my screen, so I'm gonna show you the stitches as I stitch. Some of the ones that I like, and then we'll decide which one will work best for quilting my pillow here. All right, let's see, decorative stitches. Okay, we've got practical, we've got applique, scallop, decorative. Okay, let me click over here to decorative. And it's just gonna take me a minute, y'all, to kind of look at the screen to figure out which ones might look kind of cool that don't take forever to stitch on this block here. I don't want it to be like overly decorative because then it's gonna be like too busy, I'm afraid. But I really kind of wanted to do something more than just a straight stitch. So let's see what we got here. Let's try this one and see what this one looks like. When this is done stitching through, I'll show you what it looks like. See what you think. I don't love this one. I don't love that one so much at all. Actually, it looks like I really need to put probably 2 layers on here. I'll put up 2 layers because that doesn't really want to look very good. So nope, that's a no on that one. Let's try another one. This is why I oftentimes just like go with a straight stitch. Making these decisions sometimes is kind of hard. They even have vintage stitches too. There's little flowers on here. There's vines. Let's try the vintage and see what we've got with vintage. Nope. Here's some ivy. Let's try the ivy. This one's not bad. There's the ivy. That's kind of pretty, y'all. What do you think of that one? I'm going to see what this would look like on here. So I'm going to take my block here and just kind of set this on top of it. And I think that one looks really nice. Let's see if I can hold it up so you can see it. This is what it would look like with the pretty, like, ivy. So I think I'm gonna do that one. It's pretty neat. What I need to do is get a piece of fabric and I need to adjust the tension on this, I think, a little bit. There we go. Let's try that again. I need to get a piece of fabric and just sew all the decorative stitches on a piece of fabric so I have like a legend. And then I can just look at them and be like, okay, this is stitch number 525 and this is what this looks like. But honestly, I've been so busy since I got this machine. I got it, let's see, Road to California was in January. I got it after, right after QuiltCon, I think. So there we go. That tension is a little bit better on the back. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna go with the ivy. That's really pretty. All right, so I'm gonna start, I typically try to end back on the batting when I use a decorative stitch or even the Sashiko. So I'm gonna start off and I'm gonna just follow the lines here. And because this ivy just kind of meanders, it doesn't really follow a straight line, I'm just gonna have to kind of use my line as a guide for it. Let me see the width here, about how far that is. It's gonna start about right there. Okay, so put the needle down, and here we go. And I've got my hands, I'm holding the fabric back kind of closer to my chest to just lift it up a little bit. And I know this might be, you won't really be able to see the stitches, unfortunately, with this angle until I'm done. And then I gotta figure out exactly where to pivot. Ooh, this will be interesting. Okay, that wasn't a smart place to pivot at all. So that's gonna look a little strange, but that's okay, it's just for our bedroom. So I'm not, some of y'all might have embroidery machines, and I have a little bitty one that I use to make quilt labels, but decorative stitches, honestly, because normally I'm just a piecer, it's kind of a whole new thing for me. Okay, let's see what this looks like. I'll show it to you. I'm back on the batting. So let's see here. Ooh, that's a pretty stitch. That's a pretty stitch, y'all. What do you think? That'd be nice. Now, see, this is what happened when I pivoted right there. I don't love that, but I'm not going to unpick it since this is not like anything for show other than our bedroom, so I'm going to leave it. So I'm going to try to, when I pivot next time, I'm going to pivot in the middle of a curve. You see that curve right there? I'm going to try to make sure the curve is up here rather than pivot about the time a leaf happens. So let's see if I can do better. But I really like that. Doesn't that show up really well? What do y'all think? Yeah, you like it? Okay, well the only goof up is right there, so we'll see. Y'all, when I was younger, I'm 50, I was a real bad perfectionist. And as I've gotten older, it's like, for me to have to unpick all of that and start over would not like bring me joy if I absolutely don't have to, so I'm not gonna do it. All right, here we go. Yeah, so sometimes I'll do a lot more lines. I'll have a lot more lines, like I'll have twice as many. And I don't think I would use this decorative stitch if that was the case. Okay, let's see, let's get the leaf. I'm gonna pivot and see if this is the right, is that gonna be a leaf? I don't know. It is a leaf. Ugh. Yep, it's a leaf, y'all. Okay, this is definitely a little harder with pivoting with a decorative stitch. For sure. If I was just doing like no pivot, I think it would be a little bit easier. So this is like what I would be doing on a Saturday before I did thread life with Belle. Well, that's better than the last time. Look at that. It's a little bit better on that pivot. But normally that's what I would be doing on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon, is experimenting with stuff like this and seeing what works. And at first I was like, I don't know if I want to experiment live with people. Like, what if things go wrong? I was like, you know what? This is like reality. This is mistakes and all, right? We're just gonna learn together. Of course, if at any point anyone has tips, I am good at taking feedback, unless you're mean or hateful. Then I block and delete. But if you have tips, anytime you see me doing anything of something I'm not aware of, please feel free to share. I definitely like this stitch. I can see myself using it again. The kicker though is figuring out when to pivot. Ugh, that's the problem. I did it again. Well, that's just how it's gonna have to be. The ivy's just gonna get tangled up in itself when it goes around a corner. I mean, ivy does that in real life, right? That's how I'm gonna rationalize it. Oh, I'm glad y'all can see this thread good. I'm looking at I have a tablet over here so I can see your comments as y'all are commenting. And I can see, although it's about a 30-second delay, I can actually see your comments. See, look at that again, y'all. The ivy all twisted up there. Oh well. Probably by the time I get to the very last side, it'll be like, oh, here's where you pivot. So I'm gonna go faster now. I was not going at fast speed, but I'm gonna go faster now till I get to the pivot. So I'm not used to having a machine with decorative stitches. My little travel machine has a few, but I've always just basically used my straight stitch. There we go. Isn't that pretty? That one's better, right? I think that one's better. But I was like, you know, I really would like to use decorative stitches sometimes and zigzag stitch to make franken batting. So that's kind of how it came about with this machine. I don't know if y'all ever watch Sewing Machines Plus, but Blaine Austin, it's basically QVC for quilters, okay? And I do lives with my sit-down long arm. It's a sit-down free motion long arm. And I do lives on there about 3 times a year. And he has the coolest virtual events where there's educators that teach you things, but also he has really good virtual sales. He's like the largest online sewing machine dealer in the country. And he's able to offer pretty good deals, and their customer service has been pretty great. So that is how this machine came about. And it matches my straight stitch Juki that's also silver. So I say this is the big sister to my TL Juki. Finished is better than perfect. I agree. Yes, okay, so Trish, you watch Sewing Machines Plus? Yeah, Hoop Fest. That's happening soon. Now, I only have a little, you know, entry-level embroidery machine that does my labels, so I only can do 4x4 inch embroidery items, so Hoop Fest I don't really participate in. But Quilt Husband's over here looking at the work. He's like, ooh. Okay, we've got one more side. Oh, he's checking the battery. So one time, y'all, I did a Stitchin Saturday, and what was it? We weren't able to go 3 hours? Yeah, 3 hours. And we weren't sure if it was because the battery wasn't fully charged or if that's truly how long this camera goes. So it's fully charged, so we're just gonna see, but we think it'll go longer than the 3 if I need it to. Yeah, done is better than perfect. I agree with that so much. Otherwise, you lose your joy, and it takes forever to unpick things. And on this, gosh, this is gonna look, you'll be able to see it really good when I do the overhead view and this is done being quilted. I think that decorative stitches like this can just add a little extra to it. Did I do the second row on the last section? Let me see. Maybe I did not. I did not, Trish. I didn't. Thank you. Let's go back to this section. I guess I'd have figured that out, right? When I got to looking at it after I'd stitched all the sides. Like, oh, I didn't do that one. Okay, I'm really happy with my choice, the ivy. It's just getting those leaves at the pivot point. Hey, that one worked, y'all. Let me show you. Where the leaf didn't look too wonky. Yeah, great check for sure. You're just increasing the charm factor, Belle. So look, y'all, look at the leaf. It's better. It's much better when I turn that corner. The charm factor, how is it the charm factor? Sometimes I don't know what makes it the charm factor. It's just me being me. Oh, is it the ivy? You mean this actual decorative stitch makes it be more charming? Well, we live in it's a underground home. It was built in 1984. It's a mid-century modern Frank Lloyd Wright inspired underground home, and it's a little strange. It looks, honestly, it reminds me of like a picture of Noah's Ark. Sort of, but it's got all glass windows in the front. And this is the colors, this is kind of the color scheme. There's a lot of like natural earthy colors in there, and our comforter is kind of this, it's kind of like a terracotta color. My husband didn't like it at first when I first bought it, but if y'all know me, you know I kind of like these earthy colors. Woo, I'm excited, y'all. Look at that. Okay, we got one leaf over here that did pretty good. And then this one. See, I got better with time, y'all. All right. And now we've just only got 2 lines on each corner. And then we'll be able to do the envelope backing. Now, if you forget how to do what I'm going to show you to make an envelope backing here in a minute, I do have a standalone video tutorial that shows you how to do it. And it's in one of the past videos. It's also in the Riverglen pattern too. Gina, are you gonna be, I don't know if you're still here, Eugenia, but she made a beautiful yellow one. If y'all look on my Facebook page, I posted all of these blocks that the Belle Point quilters made this week in my class. And some of them were just so unique and beautiful. And Gina did one, hers were in like really pretty spring colors like yellow and blues. And I wondered, Gina, if you were gonna turn yours into a pillow or a tote. Oh yeah, Lisa, you've been seeing his underground houses? Y'all need to Google Frank Lloyd Wright, okay? Oh my, I'm gonna have to show y'all. So I have the fabric. So before I became a fabric designer with Benartex, last year I was working a little bit just with Cloud 9 Fabrics. They sent me the Frank Lloyd Wright collection, and I'm gonna show it to y'all when I'm done with this. And I'm halfway through a mid-century modern quilt. The pattern that I'm using, I'll show you guys. And then everything just blew up and got really, really busy at the first of the year, and I've not been working on it. But the fabrics are, there's different color palettes you can choose from, but it's inspired by his architecture and a lot of his really cool work. And I'm gonna make the quilts to go on our bed. And I just haven't had time to finish it. So in a bit I'll show you guys the fabrics, you can see it. But if y'all have not looked at Frank Lloyd Wright houses, this is not one of the houses he's built, okay? But it was inspired by his work. The architect actually lives here. He and his wife live here in the town that I live in. And they came over. We invited them over so they could see the house. They had not seen it since they moved out in like 1994. And then of course there was a previous owner that lived here until he died. Not in the house, he didn't die in the house. But anyway, it was inspired from that. He saw like one of the houses, he said, in a magazine, I think on his way to Montana. Ooh, I'm really happy with that, y'all. What do you think? I'm really happy. So he just designed it all. He just drew up the plans. And it's only 2 bedroom and 2 bath, and it's partial underground. So the sides of the house are underground, and the back of the house is underground. So the roof slants down. It's like one flat roof that slants down towards the back, and the front is all glass. So we only have blinds in our bedroom. And that was the first thing I did when we got the house, was I took the previous people that lived here. They had black curtains all the way down the hall and in the kitchen and in the front. And I was like, I couldn't stand that. Like, the front of the yard is like 3 acres. You can't see any neighbors or anything. I was like, okay, these have to come down because this sunlight is just amazing. So we took down the curtains, and now it's just all glass windows. Now, granted, Windex, talk about jugs of Windex to clean them, but it's just a really pretty view. So if y'all get a chance, research Frank Lloyd Wright inspired homes, even underground homes in general, and you can see some of his cool work. So this is like a combination of underground and Frank Lloyd Wright. Okay. Yeah, I'll show them, Susan, to you in a minute. I got 2 more lines here, and then when I'll go over to the overhead, I'll whip out those fabrics. They're in the same kind of color palette you see me working with here. Y'all know I kind of like these colors. So I might have a little window to work on those in June. I don't know, we'll see. I have a big contract with my other job. Someone needs me to create a training module for them that involves a lot of recording of me talking through and creating a PowerPoint and all that. So I might be able to work on that quilt before I actually start to have to test my new patterns. I have 2 new patterns that are gonna come out with my fabric, and I'll have to start testing those in July. So I'm hoping maybe I can work back on the Frank Lloyd Wright quilt so that it's ready for fall. We'll see. Okay, this is the last line. And then we'll be done quilting. So on cathedral windows, and I told this to my class on Tuesday, you don't quilt inside the windows. They're meant to be left open, okay? So y'all can't see this, but you probably could feel it if you were touching it. Those thick seams I showed y'all that are 4-inch thick on each side when you press open, you can feel that here. So I at one time tried to like free motion quilt over this and I broke my needle, and it doesn't smoothly go over this section here. It doesn't, because there's a big thick seam in there. So they're really meant to be left open. Now this is stitched down, okay? These are stitched down. Now they're not stitched to the backing. And that's totally fine because I've quilted around it. Now sometimes I will do the decorative stitch in here in the middle. So I could take this ivy if I wanted and stitch here, but I'm not going to this time. But sometimes I'll do a decorative stitch or a straight stitch in what I call the peekaboo window here. But all of this is fine. It's a pillow, and you know, it looks like it's been quilted through all 3 layers, but this actually was only, these lines right here are only quilted through the quilt top whenever we put this together. So that's what that looks like. Okay, let's head on over to, my overhead. And I'll zoom out here for you. Oh, thanks, Eugenia. Now you can see it better. Ta-da! Isn't that nice? Get a drink. Okay, Eugenia, you're gonna do a tote bag. Y'all, my favorite way, and I'm gonna make a tutorial for it. I'll be doing it whenever I get my fabrics in. I'm gonna make a tote out of my new collection for Quilt Market, and I'll show y'all how to do one with French seams. It is the easiest. I've tried all kinds of tote patterns and tutorials, and it is the easiest one by far, and the French seams, even though they're fancy, they're not difficult at all. So I'll show y'all how to do those at some point, or at least how I do it. Okay, there we go. Let me zoom in a little bit, and then I'll get those Frank Lloyd Wright fabrics out for you. Ta-da! Ivy. There we go. I'm happy with that. Now, if I had a whole bunch more lines, I think this would be a little too busy, but I think this looks good. So I'm gonna trim it down. I'll go ahead and trim it down, and then I'll get the Frank Lloyd Wright fabrics out and show you guys. I wouldn't say we have a little bit of the house inside decorated with mid-century modern stuff, not a ton. I usually will pick some up if I find it vintage. We are still waiting to try to find a piece of artwork for the living room. So the living room wall is still bare. It's a 1.5 years later, and it is still bare because we just can't find something that we love. But like our couch, we had just bought a nice, you know, I call it the Armageddon couch, like last forever, hopefully till, you know, we die or the world, you know, has craziness. Let's see, that's stretched a little bit, so I'm gonna have to cut that. We bought a Lazy Boy couch that is not mid-century modern, and we did that before, it was before we knew we were moving back here to Arkansas. And it's like, well, we're not replacing a $3,000 couch. So there we go. That's just gonna have to work. Now the color goes, it's like a rustic brown. But I did get a mid-century modern swivel chair from Wayfair. Wayfair. Oh, let's see. What did Kendra do? Quilt Husband's commenting in the text for me. Where are you, Kendra? Oh, there you are. You just came on. Okay. Oh, yeah. You're Thread Life with Belle Threadmaster, too. Y'all are so sweet. Thank you for supporting my channel. I really, really appreciate that so much. Yes. And I'm curious to know, are y'all wanting, are you like, we want to see all Belle's fabric collections in the future before they come out, before the rest of the world does? Well, I'm going to have a party. So for the Threadmaster members, when I get the fabric, before it's public knowledge for the rest of the world, except of course Benartex, we're going to have a party, like a launch party of my fabrics. And I'm going to have prizes and giveaways for those of you that are Threadmaster members this summer. And it'll be a lot of fun. So that's a perk. That's a perk there. All right. And I'll be doing a giveaway for somebody to win some of the collection. All right, there we go. It's all trimmed down. And I'll be using binding. So I'm going to set this aside because here is this is the back that we're going to, the backing what we're going to use for the envelope. See, it matches, it coordinates here. I thought that would be nice, and it coordinates with the stitching. And I'm going to use this exact same color for the binding, right? Just throw some mid-century modern fabric pillows on the Lazy Boy. So honestly, Susan, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Because this is a really comfortable, it's like one of those L-shaped Lazy Boys. So it's got the recliner on one end and like the Chase Lounge on the other. And it's a really good like cuddle couch. It's so comfortable. But we didn't know we were gonna be moving into this house, right? We didn't know that we were gonna get this house. And so I was like, well, we're not buying another one. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna throw some, and when we get some art on there, it'll be good. We do have mid-century modern end tables my husband found. They were like redone. So they were like kind of vintage redone. The bedroom furniture, like his dresser and my dresser, they are not mid-century modern, but he had them before, like years ago, and they were expensive too. So I'm not one of those that's like, we have to change everything. We're gonna spend all this money and change everything. No, 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 because that's just way too expensive. Okay, y'all, I'm getting the fabric over here, the mid-century modern Frank Lloyd Wright fabric. Now, y'all, I am with Benartex, but they are so sweet. And so I got all of this from Cloud Nine Fabrics before I signed on to do, you know, fabric design for them. But this is the collection. Look at this, y'all. So this is called, oh, I forget the name of it. And you can see it says it's the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. And this is called March Balloons. So it's called March Balloons. This is it. Oh, Kendra, you ordered my alphabet clips? Thank you. I'm so glad you did. You got them this week. Okay, if you got them this week, then I think I already mailed them. I mailed some stuff out on Wednesday, so they should get there soon. You should be able to see the tracking. Okay, so this is like the hero print, we would call it in the collection here. But see, y'all look at this. Look at these colors. This is not the same collection, but you see what's on my heart with fabrics. I don't know why. I just love these earthy colors. They make me feel like calm and cozy. So yeah, it's a theme for me, y'all. Okay, so here's the hero print. That's one of them. And then there is, these two prints are the same here, but one has got the light background with the outline, and then one's got the darker background with a darker outline here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so here we go. This is all from his work. Isn't that intricate? So there's those here. Yeah, I'm going to be giving away a set of alphabet and number clips when I do the launch of my fabric collection too. That's also going to happen. Okay, this is going to be the backing. This is a wide back. So I've picked this for the backing. And this is the March balloons, but it's without all the colors, right? It's just very, very plain. So this came out last year in 2024. This is organic cotton. So that is the backing, and I'll show you the pattern. This is actually, there's a lady, her name, I'll let you know her name. Maybe Quilt Husband can drop it for me in the link. If you like mid-century modern, I did a search for a pattern because I was like, I'm not going to like write a pattern because it's not, normally most people that follow along with me are more traditional quilters, but this is the one I picked. So this is called the Retro Block Quilt Pattern, and it's by Shiner's View Quilt Company, and she only writes mid-century modern patterns. Isn't that cool? So this is the one that I'm actually making, and these are all the pieces. These are all the pieces, and with hers, there's a lot of pieces, okay? There's a lot of pieces. Look at this. These are all pieces that go, and it looks like it's complicated, but it's not. So I'm making like a king size of this, and it comes with all of the pieces of paper to label all of them, because the way she has them labeled are different than like how my clips work. So anyway, that's what I'm making, y'all. So I wanted to show y'all that fabric since we were talking about Frank Lloyd Wright and mid-century modern and all that stuff. And here's the deal. I haven't worked on this in like 4 months, so I hope I remember where I'm at with everything. I hate when that happens. I have to like refresh my memory on all of that. Okay, let's go back to the pillow, y'all, and work on our envelope backing. Okay, so you can do this with any pillow. Now, I will say this takes a little bit longer because I add binding to mine. You could do, you know, you could make a pillow ultimately where you're just gonna stuff it. You're just gonna sew right sides together and turn right side out, and then you're gonna leave an opening and you're gonna stuff it, and then you just sew it shut, but it can't be laundered. So I sometimes like to make one that are envelope backing because I can take the pillow form out and I can wash it, right? So that's what I'm gonna do with this one. But first I'm gonna get the water bottle and I'm gonna spritz this because there's those blue lines, and I don't think y'all probably can see this, but they disappear. So they're just gonna disappear when you just wet it like that. That's how that marker works. And it's funny because sometimes when I've gotten quilts back from long armors that I've used, every so often I'll see like a little blue mark, and that's just because they missed a spot with getting the fabric wet. So you just have to just spritz it like that, and it'll have to dry. I don't really usually iron it. I'm not in a huge hurry, but you just do that. You just spritz it with, I just use this water bottle, and that's only what it's for. It's nothing else but water, and I use it for that. Okay, Quilt Husband did drop, my friend, she's a designer, the pattern for those of you guys. She has other, if you like mid-century modern, she's got other patterns in there. You can see what she's got, but I was like, I just need one that's already written. I don't have time to like design one that I'm not gonna sell, so there we go. All right, ta-da! Marks are gone. Alrighty, so now it is time. Usually when I do this, I do it over on my pressing station. So now it is time to put on our envelope backing. Now, since I'm not using a cream or light colored fabric for my backing, it doesn't really matter, but some people, when you do what I just did, some people would go ahead and put a backing on this piece here, okay? Oh, severe thunderstorms heading your way, Valerie? Yeah, so we had all that this morning. It's moving across the country, so you stay safe, okay? If you have to leave, and all that take cover kind of stuff. It was pretty frightening actually for me on Tuesday going through all of that. Like my cortisol was up for about 72 hours after that whole ordeal. So be safe, okay, Valerie? Be safe. No need to hang out with me because you need to be safe. Anyway, some people, they don't want to see all of this. Like once we put the pillow backing on and they take out their pillow form, they don't necessarily want to see this. It does not bother me. So I just leave this, the batting. But if that bothered you, then you could go ahead and just have the backing on here when you quilted it, and then all of your stitching and everything is covered up. So completely up to you if you want to do that or not. So I'm just going to kind of get all the fuzz off. All right. Let me get my cheat sheet here. So the first thing that we're going to do is you've got your two pieces here. And let me kind of move the camera slightly. There we go. I have this little remote control, y'all. Quilt husband got me this camera so I could have a remote control to like zoom in and zoom out. All right, we have two pieces. So this pillow here is 20.5 inches, all right? It's 20.5 inches. So the fabric is 20.5 inches as far as the width, okay? 20.5 inches. But then, I'm sorry, the length. But then the width is a little different. You want one to be larger than the other one. So this larger piece is 17.5 by, it's 20.5 by 17.5. This one is 20.5 by 12, all right? So the first thing we're gonna wanna do, this is not directional or anything, we're gonna want to fold the edge of both pieces over a 1/4 inch, press, fold it over another 1/4 inch and press. And then we're gonna stitch a top stitch down. So I'm gonna do that on both of these, and we need to do it along the long edges, okay? The long edges, because this is gonna be the pieces that overlap one another like this, all right? And I always have to really pay attention because I have messed that up. Okay, Trish, are you leaving too? Valerie, I know Valerie's leaving. Okay. All right, let's head on over to the pressing station. You guys stay safe out there. If you need to get off this, I don't want you to be in any kind of danger. It looks like our sun is actually peeking out. I think we may get more this evening or later this afternoon. We'll see. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna fold this over. I'm eyeballing it, y'all. A 1/4 inch. And I'm just gonna press this down, and then we're gonna fold it over again. And just straight stitch down. Now here's where I'm like, oh man, I gotta change, make sure I put my straight stitch plate on. I don't. I can still straight stitch with that, I call it the jelly bean plate. I'm sure there's a real name for that plate, but I tend to use like terms that work for my brain. I don't think I'm gonna change it. I don't know. I might. Sometimes with that jelly bean plate, my fabric will go down in the hole and it'll want to eat it. And I hate when that happens. So sometimes I do go ahead and put my straight stitch back on if I'm not going to be doing any more decorative stitches. So I may do that. We'll see. Okay, so I've got that pressed really well. And I'm going to set this one to the side. And then I'm gonna take my other one, and I gotta double check, make sure I'm folding on the long end. And if you had directional fabric you were using, you would just wanna make sure that you were folded it on the side where your fabric was gonna be the direction you wanted it to be. So here we go. This is a long end here, so we're gonna do the same thing. Do a 1/4 inch. After I'm done with Thread Life with Belle, I'm gonna make a homemade mountainberry pie. We have some friends, their anniversary is tomorrow, is it tomorrow or is it Monday? I can't remember. So I've got to run to the store and get some berries, and I make mine from scratch. My mom always baked everything from scratch, and she still is a good cook. And I have this pie crust recipe that has got 2 sticks of butter in it, y'all. And I've not been eating really refined carbs. Been trying to lose some of this menopause weight since after my surgery. And I've lost 10 pounds. 10 pounds in, I guess, 8 weeks. But I'm making them a pie. And the recipe actually will make 2 pies at once. So there's going to be a second pie that's made. And Quilt husband will probably keep half of it, and then I'll give Dad the other half probably tomorrow, and he can share that with somebody. But okay, so we've got that down here. Do any of y'all like to bake at all? All right, let's go over to the machine. Quilt husband got the names wrong. That's okay, we're trying to learn, y'all. It's a lot. I don't know what I'm gonna do when I have, like, you know, well, hopefully, I don't know, we'll see what happens, like 200 people on here at once. That will be hard. I won't be able to remember everybody's names. But for those of y'all that are starting with me while it's new, I can remember a little bit at a time. Anyway, who bakes? Does anybody else bake? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and change this plate out, y'all, because sometimes it'll eat my fabric and it drives me nuts. So I got so used to my straight stitch plate on my straight stitch Juki, but I didn't have to take this off. I could have left this on and just kept on stitching. It's just a preference, but that's what's really cool about the machine is if you want to put the straight stitch on, you can. So I'm gonna take off those special feed dogs for, as I call it, my jelly bean plate. I'm gonna put my straight stitch back on. Whoops, got to put the special feed dogs that go with it in there. So we'll put those in. You just set that there and click it down. Good to go. I'll put the plate on and push it down. We're good to go. Now I'm gonna put my, let's see, I think I'm gonna put this foot on there. There we go, it clicked. Okay, so this little computer over here is telling me, okay, you just changed, make sure you've got the right feet on there. Trish, you love to bake? Homemade cinnamon rolls. So with your homemade cinnamon rolls, do you use sourdough? I have some friends that use sourdough starter. Or sourdough, like the throwaway. Okay, here's what I have to decide. I think I'm gonna keep using this thread. I think I'm gonna just keep using this thread so I don't have to change it. So I'm gonna do a top stitch here, y'all. What do we got, a 2.4? I'm gonna go up to, I'm gonna do a 3mm stitch length on here. Now what I do with my finger, some people will stitch it from the other side so you can see the edge. Sometimes if your bobbin isn't like perfect with the tension, it won't look as good. So I like to go ahead and stitch from the top. Let me put my dual feed on. And then I can feel the little hump there. I can feel the little hump to know like where exactly to keep it going as I come down through here. You haven't done sourdough yet? Trish, I'm on the DX 4000 Juki. It's kind of a fancy computerized machine. I've got the dual feed on. I think is it Susan? Susan, when I first got it, she's like, don't forget to put your dual feed on, because I kept forgetting. I'm not used to having one. And it's really handy. It helps keep your fabric in place. I really, really am loving this machine. I think Quilt Husband might drop the link in there for you if you want to read about it. But I've got a tutorial, or actually an unboxing of this machine. If you want to see like what it looks like, I'll have him link the unboxing tutorial of this machine. Well, it's not a tutorial, it's just the unboxing when I very first got it, so you can just see what it looks like. But it's got a lot of really great features, and that being one with this plate that changes. Okay, all right, so there's my stitch, y'all. And I went ahead and I'm glad I kept that thread in. There's what that looks like. And then there's the back. Nice, see, I just felt I could feel the ridge with my finger underneath, so that's how I did mine. So we've got one done. That is the 12-inch panel. Now I'm gonna do this is the 17.5-inch. This is all the same size as the pillow. Okay, let's get this down. Here, let me feel it. Anyway, back to baking. I do love to bake. I think I get that from my mom and my grandmother. They both baked a lot growing up. Everything was from scratch. And believe it or not, y'all, being from the South, I did not grow up with a lot of processed or fried foods back in the 80s and 90s. Let's see, I graduated high school in 93. So my grandfather was a fisherman, so he fished. So we ate fish usually 3 days a week. And we ate like black bass and crappie most of the time. And then my mom was a really good cook, so we always had like vegetables and stew or chicken. We didn't have a lot of red meat because it was really expensive. And of course, if y'all remember, interest rates were really high back in the 80s. And so I think my mom told me one time the grocery budget was $35 a week. She had to make that work. And I'll tell you a funny story. I remember when I was younger, I kind of got off there, y'all. That's gonna drive me a little nuts. What do you think? That stitch, I kind of veered off slightly. It's gonna be on the back. I'm not really gonna see it. Anyway, she had, I'm gonna unpick it just a little bit, just from here back. So $35 budget. And towards the end of the week, so my dad was a manager for a shoe factory in this little town that I actually am in now. It's 1,000 people. It was like the hub, like everybody worked there. It was really good for, people to have a lot of employment. That place kept people, working. And eventually it went out of business. It was called Monroe Shoe Company. Do y'all remember SAS? Do y'all remember SAS shoes? They're like the most comfortable shoes in the world. Well, that's who made them. They were like that, like San Antonio Shoe Company, like the SAS shoes, and the brand is called Monroe. Anyway, Dad did that. He did side jobs, to make money because, like I said, things were really expensive back in the 80s, and he had 2 kids, and Mom had to make $35 go really far. So sometimes at the end of the week, if things got kind of slim, we would get to have a special dinner, is what she called it. It was a special dinner. And you know what it was? It was breakfast for dinner. So it was our homemade biscuits, eggs, sometimes bacon or sausage, it just depended. Sometimes pancakes. And you know why? Does anybody know why that she did that? Because that was like the staples that were left. Like the eggs and the pancake mix, or pancake, not mix, but from scratch, but the biscuits, oh my, her biscuits, they're still really good. She gave me the recipe. So we thought it was a special treat, but later in life when I was an adult, she told me it was because there was no more money. Like the grocery money was gone, so she had to make it work, right? And I never knew that. It's funny the things our parents do to make us think something special as a kid when really it was just to get by. But I love to tell that story of getting to have that, thinking it was this special treat, because I love breakfast food. I think it's really, really good. Lisa, you had a Monroe Shoe Factory? Yeah, in Clarksville. Okay, also there was also one in, the sign is still there, but the factory's closed, out in Malvern. The other one is in Malvern. So Dad was a manager for the one here in Mount Ida growing up. He actually started making shoes back, I think it was in the 70s, late 70s. And then he kind of worked his way up to being a manager. He went like to school to get, I think, an associate's degree. And he retired from there. And then he always worked all kinds of side jobs. He would park cars at the horse races. That's better. He would buy used vehicles and flip them and sell them to make, like, you know, extra money. I had braces. There was always something going on. He's always been a hard worker. So there we go. Okay, we've got those sewn down. So that looks good there like that. Okay, let's go assemble this. All right, overhead. Anyway, that was like a cool experience of growing up and food. But anyway, my mom and my grandma baked. So when I would come home from school, we were like latchkey kids, sort of. The bus would drop us off at 3:30, and then mom and dad wouldn't get home from work for like another hour or so. So we would go down to my grandparents', and she usually had peanut butter cookies, homemade from scratch, and it would have the fork imprint, you know, on the top of the cookies. So those were always good. So she cooked, and then of course my mom, she made German chocolate pies, or German chocolate cakes, and then pies and stuff. So I do like to bake, but I just can't. I do pies more because the fruit is healthier for me now that I'm older, to have the fruit filling. But this recipe I have is 3 ingredients. I use organic flour. I use 2 sticks of Kerrygold butter. They're like grass-fed butter. And then it's got a little dash of salt, and it has water, really cold water. And it is the flakiest pie crust I've ever had. It is so good. And it makes 2 pie crusts, so I always end up making 2 pies. So I'm gonna make one after the show's over for my friends. I think it's 40 years, their 40-year anniversary, I think. All right, so here we go. So here's what we do. You put down your smaller piece first. This is the 12-inch one. Okay, it's 12 inches from here to here. And this is 20 and a half. And this is the 17 and a half piece. This is 17 and a half width and 20 and a half for the height. Now this is wrong sides together. So it's a little bit different than when you're making a pillow that you flip it right side out. It's a little bit different. So just remember that your pretty sides are on the outside, right? You're actually making the pillow like how it would look, because we're gonna put binding all the way around it. Now, you could do this without binding if you wanted. If you wanted to do that, you could do right sides together. And this is where I always have to like double check this one. I think whenever we do this one, I think I have to put the bigger one, the bigger one down first, the bigger piece, the wider piece down first. Then it's pretty sides together, okay? So you can do it this way, and then your smaller piece on top of the bigger piece, all right? So you do reverse. When we do it the other way, the small piece goes down first, the narrower piece. And you could actually sew 1/4 inch all the way around and then flip it right side out, okay? So you absolutely, if you're running out of time and you need to do it really quickly, but you want it to be an envelope pillow so that you can launder it and wash it, that is the only reason I really know of why I would do an envelope pillow over one that's just completely stitched up, is so I can take the pillow form out and wash the pillow. That's the reason for that. So in case you're kind of wondering, that's not the one I'm gonna make today, but I wanted to show you that. So remember, the larger piece goes down first if you're gonna do it where it's no binding, okay? And then the narrower piece like that. But for the sake of today, I am using binding. So we're going to assemble it literally like how the pillow will look when it's finished. That's how I remember. It's gonna look like how it would look when it's all finished. So this one goes down first, and oops, see, right side together. Wrong sides together, so the right side's facing out. And then I have to tell myself, you're assembling this one the way it's gonna look when it's finished. That's how my brain works. So we've got that one down. And then we're gonna put I'll have to be looking at the front. What do you mean, Trish? I'll have to be looking at the front. I probably missed something that was said in the chat. Sometimes I don't see everything as quickly. Okay, so we're gonna get that on here, and then I'm gonna use my clips, and we're gonna clip this down all the way around so that nothing shifts. Now, you're gonna wanna clip a little extra right here. I like to go back and forth over where the envelope opens. So down here, back and forth, up here, back and forth, because when you open this up to take your pillow out, your pillow form, and put it back in, you get extra pull and there's extra wear and tear there. So I do like to do that. So I'm gonna, and every so often, like I think there's a little extra fabric on this end. I might have to trim it down a little bit when I get back. Sometimes after I've quilted it, it has shrunk a little bit. So I may have to do a little extra trimming. So I'm just gonna clip this all the way around here. And I clip over where those folds meet so that I remember to back stitch front and back on it. Yeah, those shoes, back to the Monroe Shoe Company where Dad worked for, those shoes, of course, were not cool as I was a kid. They weren't like shoes I would really ever want to wear to school. But you know what? Those are so comfortable. I found a pair of sandals on eBay. They were like still new. And I had bought them when I was standing a lot for something that I was doing. And I bought them and I didn't care what they looked like because they were like walking on air. So here's the deal. You can go to San Antonio SAS. You can go to San Antonio Quilt or San Antonio something or another. Hey, hopefully y'all, Amazon's coming. Hopefully they don't ring the doorbell. If they do, I'll have to answer it. You can go to San Antonio Shoe Company, and they have more modern versions now of those shoes. And those are so comfortable, so comfortable. And you can still get them. So the style I have them in 3 different patterns: navy, black, and leopard. And they are a little pricey. They are like, if you have to do anything, so I actually have worn them to quilt shows. And it's called Bliss. That's the model of the shoe, Bliss. And they are worth the $120 for them. Quilt Husband has bought me 3 pair over the years for when I have to, like, sometimes if I'm training in front of large groups with my other business, I'm standing for 8 hours and my feet will kill me. So I'll wear those, and they're actually pretty modern. I could get on here and scroll with you guys. We could look it up on the browser so you could see them. But I tell you, if you need shoes like you're walking on air that are kind of still, they're a little dressy. I've actually had airline stewardess ask me about them because they look nice. The style looks nice. They don't look like, you know, that they're really dated. And I've given them all that information before because they're just so comfortable. All right, I trimmed that up a little bit because when I quilted this pillow top, of course, you know how that shrinks a little bit when you quilt it. So I'll flip that back over and pin this down or clip it down. I always use clips. I feel like the pins don't work really well through this many layers, so I'm a clipper. I'll clip that there. And then after I stitch this down, I'll trim it up again one more time before I add the binding on. And I'm actually going to show you guys, I'm going to put the binding on with, you know what, I can't show it to you on my other machine because there's no camera over at my other machine. I was thinking of actually putting the binding on with a special foot that I use, but you know what, I'll just use the new machine and see if that machine has a left compensating foot. We'll see what happens. All right, So this is all clipped around. Now we're gonna sew a 1/4 inch all the way around the entire thing and back stitch a few times over the part here where these two pieces overlap for strength, because you know how you open this up and you put the pillow form in? You want that to be, you know, nice that way. Okay, so back to baking, y'all. So what's your favorite thing to bake? I'm curious to know. What is your favorite thing to bake? For me, most definitely, it's homemade berry pies. I love berry pies. Okay, let me get out some feet here and see if I've got a foot that is similar to the one I use on my Juki. Let me see here. I may have one. Yeah. So it's gonna be this one. Or is it this one? Let me look here. I actually could use either one. But I'm gonna have to change my plate if I do. Ugh, I don't wanna change my plate. So what'll happen is if you use, I use what's called a left compensating foot. I don't know, I'd have to look in the manual to see what these are. This is a R and this is a D. Let me see. I'd have to get the manual out and look. But what happens is there's a little, call it a fin, and it will stay butted up against the edge of your binding so that you get a perfect 1/8 stitch all the way around. So I think I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel on the left compensating foot. So I'll have Quilt Husband link that for you, or link that for me on there. Where's my other foot? And you can see how that works for a left compensating foot. There it is, my patchwork. This is my 1/4 inch, so I'm just gonna use that one. All right. Okay, here we go. So I usually start in the middle. I don't start up on the corner just because I find sometimes the fabric will just want to pull. So I'll flip those upside down. Okay, so y'all didn't tell me, what do you like to bake for those of you that do? Do the lock stitch. Whoops. I need to do a reverse stitch when I start. That's the other thing this machine does. You can set it to a lock stitch when you start out, a reverse stitch, or nothing, where it doesn't do anything. That's another feature of this machine too. Honestly, y'all, Quilt Husband does most of the cooking. I do the baking, and sometimes I'll cook like in the crock pot, but I don't love cooking. Okay, this is gonna have a little extra fabric, so I'll have to cut that off. I can feel it. That's why I like this patchwork 1/4 inch foot, because it follows along the edge. Because this backing is just a little bit too big. When I cut it, I should have waited until after I had quilted the pillow, because it always shrinks a little bit whenever you quilt it. Okay, here we go. Now I'm gonna go back over that again. I don't know why that didn't reverse over. Sometimes with this, I think I have to turn something off for this. This will lock and stop, and I think there's a feature I actually have to turn on with that. So I'm just gonna go over it again. Okay, Kendra, you're not a baker? Cookies mostly. Yeah, cookies are good too. I tell y'all, I made some molasses cookies when I was gearing up for my hysterectomy. I was very iron deficient. They had to do iron infusions. And one of the big things they suggest when you are anemic is blackstrap molasses. I did all kinds of research on this. And I found a recipe on Pinterest. And those things are so good. They're like, they're kind of like ginger cookies, sort of. My husband did not care for them, but I really liked them. They literally, a tablespoon of that black strap molasses will give you more iron than anything else, besides an iron infusion, which I had to have those. They had to like build up my red blood cell count before they could even do surgery on me. So we did it the natural way. And blackstrap molasses cookies, they're super good for you. Now, I don't know if the kids would like them. My stepdaughter wasn't with us when I made those, so I don't know. But Quilt husband's like, I don't really like those so much. Kendra, your youngest is learning sourdough. That's wonderful. That is wonderful. I have sourdough starter. Her name is Jane Doe. And I used to make a lot more. Whoops, a lot more. I'm gonna use my stiletto to keep that down as I go over it. I used to make a lot more sourdough, but since I've been watching my carbs, then let's do the reverse stitch. I don't, now there we go, there's our reverse stitch. Sorry, I got distracted there. I don't even know what I was saying. Let me get that straightened out. I got off there a little bit. Oh, so I don't bake as much sourdough as I used to, just because of all the carbs. But I can tell you, my husband, who had issues with like the gluten stuff, when I make sourdough, he does so much better, so much better. His belly doesn't hurt him as bad. So, and the only other bread that we will eat for fiber is Ezekiel bread. I tell you what, I know 50 doesn't seem old, but I just cannot eat the way I used to eat. We've had to make some changes. But Ezekiel bread, we'll eat that. That's really good. And then I'll make the sourdough. But I think that's great for kids to be exposed to stuff like that. I did branch out and get a scale because I learned if I measure my ingredients in grams, it does better than if I just like say 1 cup rather than, 50 grams. The sourdough starter, everything just works better when I feed it. So anyway, Jane Doe's in the fridge. Haven't really used her much lately, but oops. And let's do the back stitch. So you can press the pedal at the bottom and it will back stitch and then cut the thread for you. So it will back stitch and do that for you. Okay, that kind of overlapped a little bit, but the binding's gonna cover it, so no big deal. All right, now I'm gonna cut the extra fabric around the sides off and then we'll put the binding on. So, their machine looks fancy. It is kind of fancy. It is kind of fancy, and that's why I'm still learning. I'm used to simple. I'm still learning some of the things on it. But I needed one with decorative stitches, and I really wanted a Juki. All right, so I just had a little bit hanging off. I'm gonna trim that down a little bit. Oh, you've returned. Ha ha ha. Sourdough, oh yeah, for sure. Does anyone else name their starters? Jane Doe, that's mine. I'm gonna trim this down a little bit. I always have to remember to get her out, right? And get her to growing before I make it. And I use a recipe where you don't have to do a ton of kneading. It can actually rise overnight while you sleep. And then when you get up in the morning, you go ahead and bake it. And I bake mine in a Dutch oven. And it turns out really well. I recently went to, I don't know, do y'all have county extension offices in the states that you live in? Well, we have them here, and they have all kinds of like classes. They have Master Gardeners as part of that. There's like a fitness class I started going to do strength training since my surgery. They're like, Belle, you don't want bone loss and osteoporosis. So I've been doing that 2 to 3 times a week. Well, anyway, one of the things they did was they had like a sourdough class, and they gave us starter, because the starter that I had when I moved here, we had to throw out because, you know, she wasn't going to make the trip very well. And so this starter worked out really good. It was so good. Okay, the B08, what brand is the B08? Is that a Bernina or a Burnett? Yeah, isn't Jane Doe good? And it's spelled just like that, D-O-U-G-H. Yeah, there was Jane Doe 1, and then I renamed the second starter Jane Doe again. She's Jane Doe 2, Jane Doe the second. But naming it is kind of fun, I think. That's the exact recipe method you do, Josh? Yeah, overnight, you just get it all ready before bed, and, you know, overnight, poof, you're ready to go the next morning. You can bake it. It's good to go. Okay, so I've got this all sewn on. Okay, it's a Burnett. All right. And look, ta-da! And see, there's plenty of closure here, right, to put in your pillow form, which I need to buy another one. I've got one, it's 20 by 20, so that's what you need, is the 20 by 20 pillow form to go in here. But that one is currently being used on my outside porch pillow, because I sit out there sometimes to draw or do watercolor, so I'll have to get another one. So now it's time to do the binding. So I actually need to, I've cut the strips of the binding, so let's put those together. I'm gonna leave this here for now. I have never sewn on a Bernina. I know sometimes those things like work out. When you start sewing, you kind of stick with what you use. And I use a Janome to travel with and teach with. And then I have a featherweight. Sometimes, like if we go out of town and I want to take a sewing machine with me, I'll take my featherweight, like if we go camping or whatever. Sometimes if I go to a retreat, I'll take that. But my everyday machines that I use a Juki. But I've never used a Bernina. I've heard a lot of great things about Bernina. They're part of Benartex, so I don't know if y'all know this. Little background for you. Brewer is the distributor, and there is Bernina and there is Benartex, all part of like the same company, right? So it's like a umbrella kind of thing. And so yeah, I've never sewn on a Bernina. The Juki, I drive a Toyota Avalon. I think it's my 3rd Toyota, and I'm just a fan of Toyotas made in Japan. They're just well-made machines, so that's what I have stuck with. But part of it was I loved the silver. So my TL, it's a straight stitch semi-industrial machine, which is, I call my first big girl machine. I love that thing. A lot of quilters do straight stitch piecing, sew on that machine. But I also have a Baby Lock Sashiko, and I have a Baby Lock Serger. So I kind of am like, each machine does something different, and I love it for different reasons. My embroidery machine is a little brother S900, I think. Is it a 900? I have a long arm that, well, I have a sit-down long arm. It's the King Quilter 2. It's actually a handy quilter, but they off-label it for Sewing Machines Plus, and they call it the Handy Quilter, or they call it the King Quilter 2, but it's really by Handy Quilter. And then I have a long arm that was supposed to be here in 3 weeks. And they emailed me and said they were having like some deadlines and conflicts that were coming up, and they need to reschedule the trip to come out here and ship it and set it up. So that was the other bummer news this week, because I rearranged everything. Like, I turned down paid work that week. We reserved the B&B, and you know, it's not like an easy thing for me to reschedule. But anyway, stuff happens. I don't know all the details, but I was pretty bummed about that, because there was just a lot of logistical things to arrange to be off for 4 days. So anyway, y'all, it's not going to be here the week of June 9th. We're going to have to, they said they'd reach out in 2 weeks to reschedule when some things settled down for them. So it's going to be a handy quilter that's going to come, but it's not coming when I thought it was going to come. So yeah. All right. So we've got our binding. So let's get this on here, get this all ready to go. Baby Lock Jazz 2, it was your first brand new machine. Yeah, you know, we just kind of have to start with whatever we can afford, and especially if you don't know if you're going to love quilting. Like, I started with a used 1967 Janome New Home sewing machine, mint. It was a mint color, and it was actually in mint condition. I got it on Facebook Market for like $200, and it was in the cabinet. Now, here's the thing, y'all. Those cabinets, let me just say this. The machine is centered in a cabinet, right? But you sit off to the left because you won't be in front of your needle. Well, this leg over here, it's like they really needed more of an opening underneath those big cabinets, because you don't sew centered with the machine because the needle is over here. Drove me nuts. I really needed like more leg room under there. So anyway, it did have a knee lift, so that's what I started on, was that. And you know, you got to deal with adjusting the attention, the bobbin, and all of that kind of stuff, but it was a great place to learn. And then when you catch the quilting bug, then it's like, okay, now I want to get another machine. And I chose, the Juki semi-industrial, just because it'll sew through leather, vinyl, all of that stuff. So that was why I picked that one. Okay, let me think this one through. So I do things a little differently. I sew my binding down to the back first and fold it to the front and stitch it down that way. So I got to leave enough of a tail here to join these ends. So I clip. Make sure y'all can see that. Let me scoot that up a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna, this is how I do my binding. Just fold it up and fold it down. Get that lined up. Hey Josh, how did it go with your Pantone, if you're still here, your Pantone entry of that quilt that you did with Mocha Mousse? That was a beautiful quilt. Are you entering any more contests? Y'all, Josh with, I think it's Lifting and Stitching, he had a quilt con. He does some pretty cool stuff. Y'all should go check him out on social media. And he did the Pantone Challenge recently with Mocha Mousse, which is the color of the year, which I liked because it's a neutral, but a lot of people had strong feelings about Mocha Mousse, because a lot felt like it wasn't a color, that it was basically like looking at poop. So anyway, yeah. So how long has everybody been quilting? Curious to know. So for me, this is year 5. 5 years. Let's see. Well, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24. I'm starting year 6. So it's been 5 years and I'm starting year 6. Time has just flown by, y'all. It's just flown by. Do y'all pin or do you clip your binding, or do you just like have it all be in a big ball over there on the floor. And then just kind of line it all up as you go. Curious to know. 3 years, Susan? Oh, you're starting your 3rd year. Nice. Well, I know for me, I think I've mentioned this before, that I feel like I'm making up for lost time of wanting to like try and do all the things since I was 45 when I started, and now I'm 50. But there's just not enough time to do all the things. Oh, you're making bread? Josh, you're making sourdough bread. That's funny. Okay, so his quilt is called Saturn that he did with Mocha Moose, and it's headed to the Texas Quilt Festival to hang there in the modern category. Are you talking about International Quilt Festival in Houston? Or is this a different one? Kendra, you've been quilting 9 years? Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm curious to know, how did everybody get into quilting? For me, I started quilting because of the pandemic. Like I needed an outlet. I needed a hobby, something to do. So that literally the whole pandemic, that was the bright side of that for sure, was learning to quilt. Let's fold that one up. Whoops. You just fiddle with your binding as you go? Okay. It's funny how we all have like different little processes of things we do or don't do. Some things that like are an absolute must for me might not be for others, and vice versa. Okay, there we go. So we've got that overlap. So it only takes 2 binding strips for your Riverglen pillow, or if it's a block that you have that's 20 and a half by 20 and a half. That's how many you need, is 2. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm not gonna put a label or anything on this one. A Bernina 830 recorder. I have no idea what that looks like at all. I have no idea. Josh, you got into it with the pandemic too? Let's look this up. I wanna see what this looks like. Let's go to the browser. I'm gonna look this up. So a Bernina 830 recorder. Okay, let's see here. Let's look this up, y'all, for educational purposes. Bernina, what was it, 830 recorder? Sewing machine, record, or is it recorder? Okay, let's see. Whoa. How cool is that? For highest demands. So, okay, here's some images of them right here. So is this like a collector's item? Is this a collector's item? And what year was this made? Look at that, y'all. So here's something funny about me. I absolutely cannot stand or sew on a machine that does not have an extension table. This right here does not work for me because everything wants to drape off the back or the side, and there's this drag. Like I need all the extra, stuff, the room there for it. But here's some photos, y'all, of it. So let's see, look at the case. There's one with a case on it. Okay, this one has a tray. This one has a tray with it. So is this like worth a lot of money? This vintage, here's one with the tray, the extension tray on it. I'll have to, like, if this is like a collector's item, I'm always looking at flea markets and stuff like that. I would not have known this was like vintage. So is this kind of like, would this be like a featherweight for Bernina kind of thing? That one's in really good condition. Look at that one. That's really cool. Well, I won't go down a rabbit hole of looking at eBay, but there we go. Now we all know so the 70s or the 80s. Now we know what one looks like. Cool. Super cool. Look, it's got basic simple, there's real simple. Not a lot of bells and whistles on that, huh? Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to what we were doing. Cool, cool, cool. Let me get back to chat so I can read that. Okay. It's a record. Oh, it's called a record, not a recorder. Okay. Well, super cool. Yeah, I don't have any of the vintage machines of my mom or either one of my grandmothers. All metal. Okay, so all metal, that's why I have the Juki TL, is it's all metal. Definitely for that reason. This new one I have is not all metal, so, you know, things can happen, but so far so good. All right, let's go and stitch this binding down. And I'm gonna look and see now about if one of those feet will work. I'll show you if it's comparable to the left compensating foot I use on my TL. We'll see if that will work, and I'll show you this little trick to make your, well, I won't have to use it right here, okay? So I don't have to use it for this part, but when I flip this over to the other side, I will need to use that. So let's see what we got here. I have to have plenty of a tail left for this. And I need to change my stitch length. I like to stitch with a shorter stitch length, usually a 2 millimeter or less. And I do that because I feel like it offers more stability with my seams. So I'm just gonna stitch this down. And then I readjust. I take this off and then readjust. Not far enough. Not far enough. Binding, yeah, it's like, okay, it's not like my favorite thing, but that little thing there wants to get in the way. Now I'm gonna go backwards. And then we will flip it up like this. I gotta try to remember to keep this hand out of the way. Sorry about that, y'all. The camera wants to kind of like get my hand when but I have to use it sometimes, so it is what it is. I tell you what, I saw something the other day about the amount of tornadoes that we have had compared to years past. It is like the most ever. It's wild. It's wild out there, y'all. So when I was teaching at the guilds this week, I stayed, I guess my place I was at was like, I don't know, it was like 10 miles maybe from where the tornado hit. It's like an EF1. And I was in a B&B. It was a darling B&B. It was like new. But the property it was built on, it was like almost like it was a studio. It was built like a studio. I don't know if it used to be like a garage, like a little for RVs or what it was, but they remodeled it and turned it into a B&B. And the torrential rain was so bad that it was probably about 10 o'clock and I got off the couch. I had the lights off. I just had a lamp on. I was doing some computer work. And I got up and I had on little booties, little house shoe booties. And when I stepped down, I stepped in like water, like a pile of water. I was like, oh no. So it like came through the walls. Yeah, and there was nowhere else to go. So the town I was in was really small. And there was like no hotels. I mean, it was still storming, so there was no place else to go. So the owner came over. He was super sweet, brought towels, and we mopped up what we could. And the bed was off the floor, and the couch was off the floor, so it wasn't a big deal. But that was a wild night, y'all. That's how my week started. I think that was actually the closest to, like, it didn't fly over me. It was like 10 miles away. But I mean, everything was just the wind. I mean, limbs down, all of that. That's the closest. And my nerves were shot. Like, they were shot. It was kind of a scary feeling for sure. So anybody got big vacation plans at all this summer? Gonna go camping, gonna go to the beach, you just gonna stay at home and sew all summer? We're only gonna do one vacation, and actually it's in combination with a work trip. I have to go to Florida, Panama City area for my other job. I do site visits for children's advocacy centers, and I have to go. So Quilt Husband's gonna fly down when I'm finished, and we're gonna stay for like 4 days. So that's gonna be our vacation. We had planned to go camping in April, if y'all remember last month, and we got rained out. So we saw the rain was coming, so we decided not to go. So I'm really bummed. I feel like we missed out, because there's not tons of time. Like I said, my schedule sometimes is kind of crazy between both businesses and all the quilt stuff and the retreats, and so it's a little hard to like schedule and reschedule things. Honestly, rescheduling is really, really tough sometimes. And then after that, we're having a cousins reunion. So I have some cousins that used to come visit me when I was little. We would all get together. They would come visit my grandparents. And we have not, they've not been out to the property where the retreat center is. That was, you know, where I grew up, and my grandparents were there and all. And we have not had all of us together since we were little kids. So in August, we've booked off both of our B&Bs, and the cousins are gonna stay there, and we'll be able to get to kind of reconnect now that we're in our 40s and 50s. Well, I'm the oldest. I'm the one that's in my 50s, and they're all in their 40s, but it'll be fun. All right, home stretch here. Last corner. It's always interesting to see how people do their bindings. Everybody's a little different. Turn that off. That little piece here of my 1/4" foot kind of gets in the way a little bit, but I don't want to take it off and change it, so we're just gonna make it work. All right. I had to turn off the automatic. So I've got like these features, and one of them is, oh, it's telling me to change the bobbin thread soon. Okay, let's go ahead and get through this. You have like, what did it tell me? I think you have like 30 stitches left or something before it's like completely out. So it has an alert. You can set it, you know, to kind of tell you. We'll stop there. Family beach trip in July too, Lisa. Followed by a week in NOLA, New Orleans. Straight from there to a large family cruise. Well, you've got a lot going on. That sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like a lot of fun. All right, let's put all these clips back. And home stretch of the pillow. Okay, this is the part. Oh, I don't love, but it is what it is. It's connecting our binding here. So, where is my extra? Did I have any extra? I didn't. I just have to cut off a little piece. Remember the length here. This is how I do mine. This is the way I learned when I first started quilting, and it's the way I still do it. Is I take this one and open it up like that. And then this one here, well, actually, hold on a second, Belle. Don't get ahead of yourself. I have to do the overlap thing. And this is a little harder on the pillows because there's not as much of an area to do this on, so I'm going to have to cut both of these down just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to do it here. So I'm going to put this like this, and I use this here to measure, open that one up, how far I need to cut. It's always interesting to see how people do theirs, so I'll zoom in so you guys can see what I'm doing. Oh, Kendra, 1 mile from the beach, really? That's nice. I guess it's nice unless there's a hurricane, huh? Yeah, so then we're going to, Quilt Husband's coming with me to Quilt Festival in Houston, or Quilt Market, sorry, Quilt Market, since my fabric collection releases then, he's coming with me to help, like we set up the booth, in Benartex, there's like a section I get to have, like a 10 by 10 section. And, oh, so I've got, like, in the lookbook, I'll tell you what, I've got friends that are making the elemental coat. So my friend Teresa Coates, she used to be with Minky, with Shannon Fabrics, is the Minky fabric. She's doing the elemental coat. And I have another friend that's making a really cool bag. I have another friend that's actually got a pattern for a skirt. It's like a quilt skirt. Okay, Quilt Husband. I think the overhead view of me froze. He'll have to come up. He's down in his office. He'll have to come up here and fix it. Not really. I think he told me what to do. Let me see if I can fix this. I think he said to do overhead. Deactivate, activate. No, okay, let's try it. Let's see if I can make him proud. Nope. Okay, I don't know. He's gonna have to come fix the whole little circle up in the corner, but y'all can still see what I'm doing. Okay, so I open this up here like this. And then this one, this is where sometimes my dyslexia gets me. I can't flip it over like this. Huh. I can't flip it like that. I have to remember to flip it this direction. Here, like this. And I always use a clip here to like make it come together. The circle, I'm frozen. Quilt Husband just came in, he's like, what? So I tried to do the, fix it like he showed me, but it didn't work. So I'm gonna have to have him do it. So anyway, sorry y'all, I got distracted. This is opened up. This one, this is where sometimes I'll get it turned the wrong way. So I have to really concentrate. And I put it here like this. Now we're back in action. What'd you do?
I had to go to face and deactivate, activate.
I tried.
Had to go to the face. There.
Okay. See, there's things I'm still learning, y'all. Okay, and I'm going to pin that. See, when it's short like this, it's like a little, I think this is the part I don't like, it's what I hate the most, is the binding part. This part here. Just rather not do it, but you have to. Okay. I'll take that over to the machine and stitch it down. See, it moved a little bit. I'm going to unpick some of these stitches back a little bit. I don't think I allowed enough room. Well, on my end, Kendra, the little circle where my face is up in the corner, it froze on my end. And normally when that freezes, that means it freezes for y'all too. So I had to have him come look at it. Okay, let's see here. Turn it this way. And pin that. I'm sure there's some easier way to do this. But this is the way I learned and I just don't love it, but it is what it is. Okay, we're gonna take that over and stitch it. Make sure that's right. Stitching over there. Okay, let's go over to the machine. All right. I'm gonna take off this foot because that little patchwork thing will get in the way. We're gonna put this one on. Anyway, there's a few things still that we're learning. And you know what? They just told me I was gonna run out of bobbin thread. Yep, look at that. So I'm gonna have to wind the bobbin. So while I'm doing that, I'll share with you. There's still some things that we're learning. I'm learning. So Quilt Husband has gotten to where he leaves me in here sometimes and he kind of mans the chat from his office, which is on the other side of the property. He just walks over. But there's sometimes things that'll happen, like camera will freeze. We noticed that didn't happen before. And he tries to show me how to handle it without him. So I'm still in learning mode with that. There is no way I could be like in chat dropping links in there. That's why I try to put what I can in the description box. If I was trying to do all this and that at the same time, oh my, that would be a lot. So I'm gonna wind my bobbin, y'all. When you click the little lever, you can't see it, but there's a little lever. When you click it over, it automatically starts winding, which is nice. Oh, okay, Kendra, you saw the corner freeze. Okay, yeah, because we have a delay. So what I see on my actual live OBS, which is the software I use, I see everything happening in real time. You guys see everything about 22 seconds later. So sometimes that's why it takes a little bit to see like your comments, or there's just a delay there sometimes with all of that. I see stuff first before you guys see any kind of goof ups or any kind of mistakes. We learned that early on too. Okay. All right, we've got the bobbin wound. So back in action here. There's a thread cutter inside there, which is nice. I've not seen, do y'all's Berninas have a thread cutter like out here when you put your bobbin in? It cuts the thread, which is super nice. Did I get that in there? All right. Sorry, y'all. I probably should have had an extra bobbin wound, but that's part of lives. You just get to see it all kind of happen as it happens. All right. Okay, let's see. Josh, you can barely get through a presentation at work in advanced slides, much less manage a chat. Thank you. Yeah, it's true. Like multitasking is a little hard for me. Honestly, I was kind of nervous about doing lives because multitasking is just hard for my neurodivergent brain. So sometimes it's like I'll mess up or I'll just have to stop talking for a second to think about it before I do it, or I'll mess stuff up. Okay, now we're gonna sew here on the diagonal. I think part of it too is I'm so used to doing all of this by myself in my studio for so long that talking while I do it is just kind of a new thing. Now, let me tell you something. I have learned to not cut this off right here till after I open it up and make sure that I have done this right. And it never fails. It never fails. I usually never completely cut it exactly right, and there's like a little bit extra on the fabric, even though I measured it. So I think that's why I always hate doing binding. It's like what I'm not the best at, and it's kind of annoying. But I'm picking all that. So I'm gonna press this really quick. Press that open. But I don't love it. I mean, what's y'all's least favorite part of all of the whole process of quilting? Mine is the binding. It's the joining of the binding is my least favorite part. I don't mind actually sewing it on, but it's the joining of the binding. You see, it's like, I know what's gonna happen. See, I'm gonna be stitching here. I don't know if I stretched it or what, and there's like this extra here. There's gonna be a little lip. So when I flip it over, there's gonna be a little, but you know what? This is a pillow for the house, so I'm not redoing it, y'all. Not gonna redo it. All right. Okay, here. Sometimes if I tug, like if I tug at the bottom here, I can kind of like work with it a little bit and make it work. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna pull the underneath, and when I do that, sometimes I can make up for not cutting that 100% correctly. I also really should have my dual feet on. I'm still gonna have that buckle. And that's just how it's gonna have to be. Why won't that go in reverse? Okay, y'all, see, look, this is what happened. This is what I get so frustrated about. So even though I did it the way I did it, I usually end up with, somehow this gets stretched or whatever. So when I fold this over, there's gonna be a little bit of a buckle right here. The connection test, the joining is dreadful. I know, it sucks. It really does. I hate it. I really wish I didn't have to do it, but so sometimes in mine, you'll see that. It's like, well, that's just how it's gonna be. When you wash it, you don't really see it, but this is what I'm still not good at, and I don't love it. Okay, I'm gonna show y'all a little tip on something that I do think that I do pretty good at, and that is with binding, I use glue. Glue. So I use the Roxanne glue based it. And for me, this has been so helpful with my binding. And let me show you why. Okay, so here you go. You've got this. If you didn't press and you didn't use glue, this is like you're having to like pull it over, and it's not like flat, and it's not really like, I don't know, you see all this extra give here? So what I do is I take my iron first, and I always keep these little snips over here because I snip all these loose strings that I end up seeing. And I press my binding open. Okay, here's another mistake, y'all. This is where I got off here. I got off a little bit so you can see that stitch there, but oh well. If this was like my cover quilt that was going to be hanging at a show, yeah, there'd be a lot of fixing of things, but not for just this pillow. See, look, see where that is? Look at that. Ugh. It's annoying. That little thing there. But it's the back of the pillow, right? We're not going to see it very much. The old Belle would have like ripped everything apart and redone it. The new Belle says done is better than perfect. So I press all this out like this all the way down. Now, here's one thing that I learned. If you use wool batting, this is not wool, it's 100% cotton. The heat will actually kind of melt your wool batting a little bit. It'll smash it down when I say melt it. It's not really gonna hurt it, but the fibers will tend to stick together. So you have to be kind of careful if you do this to really, I use a mini if I do wool and really just get the tip right here on the edge. This is not wool, so I'm able just to like go to town with the pressing here. So I do that first all the way around. And then I come over here and I get my little snips. Let me move over here. Get my little snips and I snip all these threads from the fraying that happens. And then we're gonna glue. And I tell you, it takes a little extra time, y'all, but I love it because sometimes, turn that down, sometimes I don't go ahead and stitch my binding immediately, depending on what's going on. Like if I need a stopping point, then this is all gonna be glued down and I don't have to, stitch it down immediately. So now I'm gonna take my glue here and you're gonna put a dab. Roxanne Glue Based is my secret weapon. Binding, cathedral window, it's your best friend. So I just put drops of glue all down the edge, like this. Okay, and then start down here and fold it over, so make your nice mitered corner there. And I pull it over with my finger and try to make it pretty even if I've not somehow warped my binding. Just fold that over like this with my finger. And then I press as I pull it over, and that heat sets your glue. So now it is folded over nice and neat. And it's all going to be stuck in place. It's all going to be stuck in place. And then we're going to turn. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn. And I'm gonna snip all those. And so here we go. Now we're going on the other side now. And I'm gonna put a little bit of glue there where I'm gonna do the mitered corner. And I just put dots all the way down. And it just, to me, it keeps my binding flat when I get it underneath the machine to stitch it down. And it just looks better. Because like I said, I have a little trouble with binding. It's like my least favorite thing to do. And I feel like I'm not really as good at this piece here as maybe some other things. So there we go. We glued that down and then pull it on over like this. I'll scooch this down. I didn't get enough glue. Sometimes if I don't get enough glue, it won't hold, so I have to make sure I have enough. But I love, this tip is actually a different tip. This tip did not come on here. Oh gosh. Let me look and tell y'all the name of it. They're fine line tips. I think it's called Fine Line. I'll look at the package in a second. And I unscrewed it. It will fit on most any bottle. So if you do ever any kind of detail work where you need to use glue, but you need a better tip, I took off the one that came with it and use this. Let me see if I've got, you know what, I do. Let me go look in my drawer really quick and tell you the name of it, just in case y'all ever want to use the glue based. You can see it's called Fine Line, and I'll show you what it looks like. Comes in a little package like this, Fine Line. You just Google Fine Line, And this fits 7/8 or 2 centimeter, and it's a 3-pack. And here's how it works. It screws on any kind of glue bottle. It would even screw on this one. And here's the thing about it. So you know what usually happens with the tip. If it doesn't have something that goes in it like a pin, it gets all gunked up. Well, this has got the pin built into the lid here, like this. So it fits in the hole, so it doesn't get clogged. So you can put these on your glue bottles. And it also comes in like, let me see, you can put it, there's a smaller size one. Here's fine line, and this is actually their glue, and it can come for smaller bottles as well. So just a little tips from Belle. Glue for bonding, especially when you might not be so good at it. But like I said, I'm not, but some of these, I've gotten better at mitered corners, but I say the glue has really helped me a lot. When I started using this, if this is something that you find is your weak spot, is binding, it's helped. So just put the glue all the way down there. And we'll just fold this over for that nice mitered corner there. And just use my iron and just set that glue. And it just lays so much flatter when it's going underneath the machine. And I have a better experience. And I experience joy more than when I did it the other way, not involving glue. So do what works for you. But if you want to give it a try, I don't know. I've never used Elmer's. I'm a Colonial Needle makes Roxanne glue-based products, so I am a fan of theirs. They actually sent some extra. There's like free stuff for you to try at the retreat center here when you rent it with your friends. There's like free stuff to try, and so they sent some for people to be able to use it and see what they think. But you probably could use Elmer's glue, the washable kind. I don't know. I've not used that before. This stuff dries pretty fast with your iron, so I don't know. Do any of y'all use glue for your binding at all? I don't even know. I learned it somewhere along the way. I don't remember. But I'm like, yep, I got to pass this tip on to people. Okay, last corner, and then we're going to stitch this one down. Oh, I'm excited. I wished I'd bought the pillow form so I actually could put this on the bed tonight, but I didn't. So I will probably order one on Amazon, and it'll be here in 2 days. Here we go. We'll see how that little extra fold looks on the back after that little not cutting my binding right. And I even measured it. That's what I hate when that happens. Okay, so here at the end, I usually have to unglue. I'll pull it back just a little bit for that to line up. I'll show you here for these to meet. I'll just pull that back a little bit because I like them all to be the same direction. So I'll pull that back and then go ahead and put the glue there for that corner. Fold that over, set it, and we are good to go to stitch this down. Now to try the foot that came with this machine to see if it works the exact same way as my left compensating foot does on my Juki TL. Put that back in there. I don't have my glasses on, so it's a little hard to see. Okay, got that. All right, let's sew this down. Okay, let me read the chat here. Let me see what y'all said about, let's see what I missed while I was over there. The pressing station, I can't read the chat. So, okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one, y'all, that has a tough time with the binding. It's that whole joining thing. What do you call it? The connection test. I think I need to come up with a t-shirt that says, I suck at the binding connection test. Okay, Kendra, you also don't like binding. You've been using liquid stitch for gluing the binding. Josh, I don't know what liquid stitch is. Oh, it doesn't apply easy? Okay, I'm all about easy. So the ease of the glue application was easy. You saw kind of how that works. As long as you have that fine tip, you need that fine tip just to put the little dots. If your tube, the hole is larger, which is kind of the size of it with the original tip that came on the Roxanne glue based it still works, but let me see if there's another size. Let me see if I've got another size. There's another one you can get. You know what? It's in my teaching bag. Let me go grab it, y'all. It's in my teaching bag, and it's an accordion. You could get this one. This is what I use in class with students. If you want to try this, let me do the overhead. This is what it looks like. So it comes in this little thing here, and it's already got the tip on it here, and you hold it like this, and you can just bloop, 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 bloop. Now this is not refillable, but I don't know how long this lasts because I use this for teaching. Because I use glue base so often, I got their big bottle and got the fine line glue tip. It's a 3-pack, and do it that way. But if you want to give it a try, get the glue based it. And Colonial Needle makes it. Just type in Roxanne glue based it. I'll link it later after the show in there for you guys, but I love the ease of it. I think it works really well, personally. So I am a fan. Josh, it is easy. Once you get used to joining binding, it won't be so daunting. Listen, here's the deal, Trish. I've been joining binding for going on 5 years now, and I still have like issues every so often. That'll happen. Not every time, but it happens every so often. And it's like I follow the same process. So it's like, if there is like a different way to do it, I might be willing to try something different, because it's like hit or miss with this where it'll be off a little bit. Let's see how bad it looks. That's not horrible. That's not horrible, but here, let me see, here it is. It's right there. Right there. You can't see it too bad, but there's a little crease right there where that happened. So yeah, I mean, it's not enough to be like, if it was in some kind of like contest or whatever, it would be like a problem. Let's see. Okay, the glue, Roxanne glue based it. Trish is what it is. Kendra, use Elmer's glue with tips. So you just order like this regular tips off Amazon. I'm probably sure they have them. So the thing I like about Roxanne glue base is it heat sets. I don't know, Kendra, does your Elmer's glue heat set? Like literally when I put an iron to it, like it's sealed the deal. Yeah, Josh, the fine line points are good. There's 2 sizes. That was the 7/8 or 2 centimeter size that fits the larger bottle. And then there's the smaller one. So I think I actually ordered both sizes so I would have a set of 6 anytime I needed them. All right, I think I'm caught up on chat. So here's what we've got. Now I'm gonna stitch this down. Let me zoom back out, y'all. We'll show the up close. Here's the up close. I'm really happy with this ivy stitch that I chose. Happy with that. Okay, let's zoom this back out. So here we go. We've got the binding on, and like I said, I stitch to the back, fold it over, and then I stitch to the front. Now what'll happen is there will be, and because I'm using thread that is coordinating, there will be a stitch right along the edge, all the way around the edge here of that. And it doesn't bother me, but it does bother some people. So some people stitch to the front, fold theirs over to the back and glue baste it, and then hand stitch your binding down. That's another good reason for the glue for your binding, because if you love to do that where you just fold it over, glue it, it's all glued down on the back, and then as you are hand stitching your binding down, it's like firmly in place. You're not having to like pull it over and try to get it all lined up. Like the glues put everything in place, and you can work on it for days without it coming unglued. So there is that. I use 2.5-inch strips for my binding. And I have used 2 1/4. But when I do that, sometimes what happens is my stitch gets it gets a little wonky. So the stitch will kind of get on this part of the binding on the back. Sometimes it'll get on the actual backing, and that annoys me. So when I do 2 1/2 inches, when I'm stitching the way I do, where you see the stitch on the back, the stitch comes to be about right here. You'll see, and I'll show y'all when I'm done. Okay, so let's go over to the machine and get a drink there and stitch this down. Now, we're going to experiment with these feet and see if one of these is comparable to what I use on my Juki. So let me see here what we've got. I think I determined it was, let me see here. Yeah, it's this one, y'all. This is the Stitch in the Ditch foot, okay? It's this one right here. But I think I'm gonna have to change my needle plate on this one. Let me see. Let me look at this for a second, how this is gonna work. Yeah, I do. I've got to be able to move my needle over about one spot to the right for this to work. But what happens is, right here, underneath here, you've got that little fin, I like to call it, that will line up, butt up against your binding all the way down, all right? But the needle has to be moved over just a hair, because right now, it would literally stitch like it was stitching in the ditch, and that's not what I want. So I'm gonna have to change out this again on here. I'll get that out of the way. So let's get my jelly bean plate out and do that. Kendra, you hand bind yours? Okay. Hey, Barbara. Welcome. Are you just joining us? Thank you. I'm glad it looks awesome to you. I'm pretty pleased with it, even though, like I said, there was this little spot. Here, this camera is really good over here. Let me show you. Let's see if y'all can see it. It's right there where the binding was a little too long, and there's a little fold in it right there. So it's not bad, but it still annoys me when it happens. All right, so let's pop this off, y'all. If you missed it, anybody that's joining now, if you missed it, you know what? I'm looking back here. I'm 20 seconds delayed, and when I look back, I can see that maybe I did not have this very good in the camera view. I still am struggling with that a lot with making sure y'all can see things. Okay, let's try this again. For those that didn't see it a while ago, this is that fold, and that's what happened where I screwed up on the binding. And that'll happen every 2 to 3 times where I cut it just slightly off, or the binding stretches, and then boom, there's like extra. All right, so we're gonna take off the straight stitch plate and the straight stitch feed dogs. Just pop right off. It's really not hard at all. We're gonna put on the feed dogs that go with, I call it the jelly bean plate. We'll put that on, and then I can move my needle over. If I can get it lined up. There we go. There we go. Okay. I know it sounds like it's breaking it, but it's not. It just has to snap like that. Okay, there we go. We're all set. Now we are gonna try this foot. So if y'all have a foot like this, this is the Stitch in the Ditch foot. You see the little fin right there? What we're gonna do is we're gonna move our needle over just a hair. We're gonna line up the fin along the outside edge of our binding. Now I'm gonna manually move my needle over, needle position. we're gonna move it over about right there. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah. Okay. So I've moved mine over to a 5. And let's backstitch. Okay, here we go. So that little fin is just going right along the edge of the binding. And really, I probably could have moved my needle over just a little bit more. We're just gonna guide right up along the edge. And I just kind of use this hand over here just to make sure it stays butted up. And you might be able to see out the back view. I don't know, you probably can't. I'll have to show it to you when I'm done just to see how this is good. But what happens is it keeps your stitch consistent along the edge of your binding. And because you've glued, all of this is nice and flat. You've glued it, you've pressed it with your iron, so it's nice and flat. So I've moved mine over 5.2 is what I've got the needle position. I could probably do 5.3, but 5.2 works. With my straight stitch Juki, the left compensating foot lets me do this without having to move my needle. And I can't move my needle on my straight stitch Juki, like there's no moving. Now, even though right here, I use my little stiletto, even though this little fin is right here, I just can use a little stiletto, and I'm just gonna bump that down. And one more stitch. And I'm gonna pivot. I'm lining up that little fin here along the edge of my binding. I'm just gonna keep going. So y'all, you're stitching the ditch foot. If you've got a sewing machine where you can move your needle to the right a little bit, I'll get up close. I'll show you when I'm done to see how straight this stitch is for your binding. But I have tried this before with my left compensating foot when I very first started doing binding without the glue. And because all of this, you're having to try to like fold all this over, keep it flat, keep the foot lined up. It's just, no joy, y'all. This way, I'm like, yeah, no problem. Got a nice straight stitch. Keeps consistency. So I'll get that stiletto out of the way. And then I'll show this to you when I'm done. I know you can't see it from the top view, so I'll show it. At some point, Quilt Husband and I may try to figure out another camera view so you can see the view I'm seeing. That's like the ideal way, but. Okay, I'm coming up on another mitered corner, so I'm just gonna use my stiletto there. And pivot. And come on down. Anyway, eventually we might try to get a camera view that's like showing this view from the front, but so far we've not come up with anything yet where it's not like in my face or in my way. Bye, Kendra. Thanks for joining us today. Yes, y'all know there's always replays, so of these lives. If you ever miss them, they immediately post. So when the show's over, if you look on my YouTube channel, you'll see like, it'll say videos, shorts, lives. So the videos are ones that I have pre-recorded and edited, and they're posted, like tutorials for things that you don't really see any mistakes because I've edited those out. Lives, you get to see Belle in all her forms, and those post immediately under the lives. So you can always go back and watch those. Stitchin Saturdays are days kind of like this, where I'm not really necessarily teaching like something, but you kind of might pick up a few little tips along the way, and we're just working on our stuff together. You're stitching your stuff, I'm stitching mine. We're not actually really making the same thing together. Okay, and now here we go. Another corner, we're almost done. I tell you, that fin, that little fin there on this stitch in the ditch foot just kind of keeps everything in place. So that stitch is right up along the edge. So y'all need to try this. You can use this foot. You can even get an off-brand if your machine didn't come with a stitch in the ditch foot, or a left compensating foot is the other thing it can be called. That's a little different. Like this on the left compensating foot, you know what? Let me show you. I'll just show it to you. It could look like this, right? Find it in here. Huh? No, I really don't. This actually has the dual feed, which I don't have engaged. I should. There we go. I got the dual feed on. So I don't really have to use a walking foot with this one because it actually has the dual feed. So there's no need with this machine for a walking foot because the dual feed really covers that. But with my Juki, I have used my walking foot to put binding on with my Juki TL. So this is the foot that works on, that is a, I think it's called it's a low shank. I always get them confused. So this is it. It's SL15. This is made in Japan. This is the original. It's not an aftermarket. And what happens is, if you can see here, this part of the foot is up higher than this one. And this one has a groove right here. What happens is this sits up higher, so this binding, of course, is up higher, and it slides right along the edge of your binding there. It's right along the edge. And so it does the same thing, only for my Juki TL straight stitch, the needle automatically lands where it's supposed to the whole way down. So it's like my needle was moved over, but it's not. So you can use your stitch in the ditch for the same thing, but you manually have to move your needle over where you want your stitch to be all along here. But this is what that foot looks like. You can buy this special. Juki Junkies has it, and it's called the left compensating foot. And it'll make it to where you can stitch, it's like 1/8 of an inch from the edge of your binding, so that you know what that looks like. Okay, but, you didn't see me attach the binding. Did I use a walking foot? I did not. The dual feed is what I didn't have it engaged. It worked fine without my dual feed on a while ago. I just engaged it. So now the dual feed is on. But no, with this machine, the dual feed is what you use rather than the walking foot. My walking foot on my straight stitch Juki, I do use when I'm quilting straight lines or on my binding, but not on this one. I just forgot to. I still am getting used to engaging that dual feed. Susan, when Susan's on here, she usually is like, Belle, don't forget your dual feed. I'm just not used to some of the fancy features, so I'm still getting used to that. Okay, get the fin out of the way there. Okay, this is our last corner, y'all. All right, gonna turn it, home stretch, and then I'll show you what the stitch looks like. And I'm just using my left hand, and I'm holding the very end. You probably can see in the back view camera where my other hand is, and I'm just kind of holding it out to guide that. Okay, we'll back stitch. All right, so here we go. There is the stitch, y'all. So that's how close, that's where I had my needle moved over. I could have come over a little bit more if I wanted. Where I'm at here, I just went a little bit slower to make sure it didn't, you know, come off. But the edge of your stitch in the ditch foot, that fin lines right up there so that your stitch happens right here, all right? Hopefully y'all can see that there. My thread matches so well, it's a little difficult to see. Now let me show you the back. Now for some people, this does not work for them and it annoys them, but it's just fine for me because it's a neat straight stitch. So on the back, there's what the stitch looks like. It's all around the circumference there of the back of if this was a quilt or it's the binding. So this stitch right here that's on the front, this is where it ends up on the back. And this is why a lot of people hand quilt their binding to the back, because they don't want this. And that's totally fine. For me, I don't mind it because I don't have the time to sit and hand stitch all of this. I just don't. So that's how I do mine. So you know, if that doesn't bother you, you might want to give it a try. Okay. So let's take a look at all of this. Now that it's done, here we go. We've got our binding on. Oh, I'm excited. I should have just bought the pillow though. There we go, it's all done. So that's where my pillow form, it'll just go in there like this. And I now have, I think I have like, I probably have like 7 or 8 of these. I took all of them to the class I taught the other day so people could see, but I think I picked the right stitch. The ivy, that little ivy stitch is really nice. Let me hold it up there so you guys can see better. All right, there we go. Okay, friends, well, it's 6 o'clock. It's getting close to dinner time, so I think I'm gonna end it here. We've been on 3 hours together, and I need to bake a pie. I need to go to the store and get some berries, and I think probably tomorrow I'm gonna work on this baby quilt and get that sashing done and get that kind of ready to go. All right, so I hope that you all have a fabulous rest of your long 3-day weekend, and you get in some quilting and some rest, and hopefully there's no tornadic weather, although I know that storm's kind of moving across and it could be a little scary. So stay safe, and I will be back on Monday afternoon about 3 o'clock. I'll put a thumbnail to let you know what I'm gonna teach. So Monday will be a day of showing you something that you actually can make. And I haven't decided 100% for sure what that's gonna be. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for all of you being here, and thank you for those of you that have become Threadmaster members of my channel as monthly subscribers. I really appreciate that, y'all. And I enjoy being with all of you and your comments, your interaction, and thank you for your support on Thread Life with Belle. So until next time, quilty friends, make lovely things.